I get audio feedback.
You
You want. Nice, that's what we need.
But test several times, but. Nice now.
Brendan, will you promote?
You'll need to just turn this.
Here you go. Okay. Welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee. This is our second to last meeting here before the next induction, and some of us may be here, some of us may not. So we've got quite a bit of stuff left here on the agenda tonight. So I won't take too much of your time. We'll go ahead and get started with a roll call.
Councilmember Preston. Councilmember Mabry.
Here.
Councilmember Nyan. Here. Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
President.
Councilmember Boschert. Councilmember Vanek. Councilmember Albers.
Here.
All right. With that, we would do the approval of minutes. If anybody cares to make a motion to approve the minutes. Made by Mr. Marshall. Anybody care to second it? Seconded by Mr. Mabry. Any questions or concerns before we vote? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the minutes from last month pass. That brings us to public participation. I know we have
One gentleman in the room.
That was me. My apologies. All of a sudden the audio clicked on. I don't know that we have anybody attendees. So do we? I don't think so. Okay. Mr. Sherman, I assume you would like to speak? Okay, you've done this before, I know, but just as a reminder, try to keep it to about 5 minutes and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir. Michael Sherman, 17511 Summit View Place Cove. I'm here today, obviously representing the bow hunters. I lead the group called Certified Bow Hunters of St. Louis County that does deer management for all of the cities, around us. So first off, I read the formal assessment that was completed. I pulled it and read most of it. Obviously, I'm very familiar with a lot of the regulations that the other cities have incorporated. And I've been operating under those regulations very successfully with my group for, since it's been in existence in over 20 years. So I'm glad to see the effort, and I appreciate the effort going out to coordinate with them and to get that research so we can understand what's being done out there, without spending taxpayer dollars. I will say there's a couple concerns that I have when I read the document. I understand the city's desire not to approach it from a contract perspective. One, the risk and stuff that you state in there is obviously highlighted. But the frustration is that's exactly what you did with the people who were in the backyards with rifles shooting deer in the head at night. And you've done the work. You've obviously done what's needed to protect the city in that situation. So it shouldn't be much different, at least from my perspective, for a group of bow hunters. The other concern is there's no real mention about, giving us a fair chance at this. You went out and you got additional permits, the nuisance permits from the Missouri Department of Conservation. You extended the hunting season. You allowed baiting, all of those things. The way I read the report, it basically assumes, we're just going to let the bow hunters, as is, status quo, follow the Missouri Department of Conservation seasons. If you truly want this program to be effective with no cost to the taxpayer dollars, I think at least a little effort would be appreciated. again, I understand some of the complexities around this. I deal with it with a lot of the other cities as well. We get some support, more support than others. I really appreciate several of the council members who called me and personally asked for my input. Gives me a voice and some input. So at least I know we're being heard. I'm just asking for, some additional consideration. And then the one final thing that I would say that's extremely important is reducing the acreage minimum. It'd be easy to incorporate, or shouldn't be too hard to incorporate, a less than 3 acres to 1 acre archery only portion into the regulations, where we can get access to those concentrated areas where the deer are, that have not really been touched. And that's what makes it effective in a lot of the other areas. These deer are living in micro habitats, and having access to them is extremely important. There's a bunch of safety concerns listed, the danger of archery and things of that nature, trespassing. I am more than willing to take time. If somebody wants, I'll stick around for tonight, and I can share with you a lot of the tools that we use and the measures that my group puts in place to ensure bad things don't happen. I'm not gonna stand up here and lie to you and pretend that accidents will never happen, but in the 20+ years that the group's been in existence, we've never had an insurance claim. We've never had a major issue. Sure, there's been some discussions with property owners that just don't like deer hunters. We get that, but it's a very safe and can be very effective. So again, appreciate your time tonight. Try to keep it short, and I'll stay until the end if anybody has any questions for me, or happy to answer them whenever it comes up.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other attendees online, so with that, we will close our public participation, which brings us to the item that Mr. Sherman was speaking about, which is the formal assessment of incorporating bow hunters into future deer calling efforts. And as we have had this issue being discussed in various capacities over the last several months, I became a bit of a lightning rod, I guess, so to speak, on this issue. So to try to ensure that this report is what it needs to be to the council in the right capacity, all those things, I have asked our vice chair, Mr. Marshall, to take over this issue, and he and Tom are going to tell us everything that they put together, mostly Tom put together here with our large memo and our presentation and everything else. So Mr. Marshall, take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're not gonna do the whole memo, are you? No.
Yeah, line by line, actually. Yeah, and I'm a really slow reader, Cliff. But thank you for your comments. I think we're trying to compress this, so we're still gonna have to go to the council and somehow get it to the point. There's just tons of really good information there. But if people don't want to read it, they don't want to accept it, you're never gonna change that. So trying to make it as simple. So maybe the goal as we go through this tonight is we could be able to finish up as we forward the staff's recommendation. We can decide what's important in the presentation to the rest of the council. There wasn't anything that we hadn't done. And unfortunately, I've been around it for 28 years. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of unfortunately bad feelings with a lot of the residents that just didn't have a great experience. So I think that part of that is we've got to really respect the fact that I always thought that deer hunting was a part of our program. We never had a way to count it. So that's the unfortunate part, because who knows, maybe there's 1,000 head of deer coming out a year from the bow hunters and the gun hunters. And we know that many of the people have several people come in and hunt on their property. So we have no way to know that, but we do know what we've surveyed and then what we've done. So Mr. Lee, would you like to start us through from the beginning?
Yes, thank you so much, Vice Chair, and thank you, committee. I wanted to first and foremost thank everybody for allowing this department to put this presentation together. And the report was pretty intensive. The staff report itself was 29 pages. There was a lot of code that was used and cited within the report, so that was included as well. So it's not as bad as it looks. It's in the 70s where it was at. But in order to kind of consolidate, even though it's still a little bit of a long presentation, we decided to put together a PowerPoint just to go through. So I'm going to share my screen here just so the folks at home can also see it, and then the committee can also see it as well. But the idea would be to go through these, and then at the end, there is a recommendation slide from the department. And as Mr. Marshall had mentioned, a key component that would be very helpful to the department is given the fact that there is a lot of information on this. If we're able to possibly pick out the best components that would be best for the council to understand and get that forwarded over, then we can most definitely alter what's presented tonight to kind of bring it to a little bit more of a happy medium of, good information, but also digestible content. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and share this and so a couple visual items too that'll help kind of explain some of the things we're talking about. 1 second here. Okay. So first and foremost, wanted to go over the purpose of the report, dive into these, and unfortunately, a lot of information needs to be covered, so it's gonna take a second, but I think it's all worth it. So back in December, to kind of get the basis of where we're coming from, back in December, the council did not approve the White Buffalo contract, which was part of our initial program, deer culling program, and part of that it was a vote on an actual contract itself. So it wasn't necessarily a vote on deer management as a whole. It was a vote on just that contract. That said, that contract was effectively carrying out the work that we had proposed for the last couple of years. So when that contract was denied, the program was effectively paused. The regulations that are currently on the books within Wildwood City Code are still applicable today. Nothing in that like has changed as of right now. The direction from the council after that vote and when the ordinance failed was to refer it to the Administration and Public Works Committee and then to look into the feasibility of incorporating local bow hunters into future deer management efforts. So the question that was posed and the purpose of this analysis is really to answer that exact question. Can we incorporate local bow hunters into future deer culling efforts? And then also identify some of the more nuanced items that would come with that. So first and foremost, we got actually a quick answer here on this, but this kind of goes with something Mr. Marshall had just mentioned, but from the department's perspective, and at least from what the current regulatory framework suggests, is that yes, we definitely want bow hunters incorporated in the program. They're an instrumental part to deer management across the city. Currently, it is legal to hunt in Wildwood. It is, as mentioned by a public comment today, it is limited to 3-acre lot minimums. We'll go through a parcel map today that shows the parcels that are eligible, if you will, as long as you meet all the other requirements. But not only that, just to point out kind of a numerical item here, at 3,881 properties exceed that 3-acre minimum threshold throughout the city, and they make up the vast majority of the city's land mass. It's over 70% are 3-acre parcels. That said, getting back to the meat and potatoes of this, when an archery hunter goes out and legally takes a deer, that harvest is contributing to the overall population reduction and is helping our efforts. That said, one thing that we found and one thing that's included in the recommendation is that we haven't really had a good way to quantify it. The reason why I was running a little late to this meeting is we actually did find that the managed hunts did post the quotas and what actually the outcomes of the most recent hunt. So we'll be able to break that information down a little bit. We didn't have too much time to analyze it, but we did incorporate it in tonight's presentation. But nonetheless, when they were hunting in Babbler, that's more of a managed hunt we'll go through, but Babbler Rockwoods, or if they're hunting on a 3-acre lot of a friend or, it's their own property, all of those efforts contribute to deer management. In the recommendation, we'll see what really would help the city to start understanding its impact is possibly requiring or requesting that bow hunters report their harvest information, whether it be the two key components that we would need. There's more that we could wish for, but two big ones are, where did you kill the deer, and, did you kill the deer, and then get the information from that hunter. That said, a key factor of this report that you'll see quite a bit is the word voluntary and the difference between voluntary hunting and a contracted hunt. That those have ramifications, and we can break down and address some of the comments made from the public. That said, also looking at it from the perspective of right now, the city is a regulator of hunting activity, but if we were to contract, and we have in the past with White Buffalo, you become an active participant in whatever operations take place after that. So we'll go through that a little bit, but overall, wanted to give a quick answer here, from the start and just say that, yes, we can incorporate local bow hunters into future deer culling efforts. They can hunt right now, well, not right now, but during the upcoming bow hunting season. And that data that, if we were able to get the data from them, we would actually be able to better track what activity is taking place within the city and, truthfully, those impacts and breaking it down based off our population estimates. So to give a little background here, just to kind of set the stage, I wanted to go over and include in the presentation. This wasn't necessarily as covered in depth in the report, but where we are at, how did we get here? We explained the motion that was made, et cetera, but really kind of going into what we've done thus far and the success of the initial program and where we go from here. So real quick, this image here, hopefully this is helpful. It shows the 6 map areas that make up approximately 44% of the city that were studied. The reason why these areas were chosen was the denser residential nature of the homes and lots that are included within them. And then also the other major consideration, which kind of started this whole conversation, is the major roadways that run through these map areas. So you'll see here that Highway 100 and Highway 109 are featured prominently. And then also, as you go on, you got Old State Road, you have Allenton, a portion of Allenton, there's quite a bit. Nonetheless, to kind of break it down of where we've operated in the past, we were hunting in the NE1 and NE2 map areas, which you'll see here in red and blue on the northeastern portion of the city. First year was NE1, second year was NE2. Going into the study, just so you know, for this data, the data we're using is pulled from multiple sources of the cities, one being for the SE2, West 1 and West 2 regions. That's from the 2020 distance sampling survey, but we actually have more fresh data on the NE2 map area, NE1 map area, and the SE1 map area. So I wanted to point out where the data is coming from for the consolidated picture here, but nonetheless, we were trying to put together a better understanding of, and we'll get to the next slide, where it shows what we actually have to remove each year at a very conservative level just to maintain the population at its current levels. So right now, we were back in 2020, when we did the initial study of these 6 areas, we were at 71.5 deer per square mile across this 30.48 square miles of the city. After the 2 first years of operations, we got that down to approximately 57.6 deer per square mile. That is an estimate. That said, the trend data and seeing that over time does go to show that it was effectively reducing the population across the study area. That is still quite off from what the Missouri Department recommendation and most white papers on the matter would suggest would be around 15 to 20 deer per square mile, and the initial goal of the city being 40 deer. And then the idea was to get to that point, and then that was really supposed to be the set target up front, and then also see how we could further reduce and get it closer to the ecologically balanced approach of 15 to 20 deer. Did also want to point out that just going back to these population estimates that are included here, these are very conservative because, and the next slide will show, we're using from cited literature the most conservative estimate possible at a 20% annual growth rate for the deer population that grows each year. So that you can almost picture it as this. If you have 100 deer in an area and you don't do anything, you don't introduce any type of hunting activity or culling activity, and you let it be, typically, unless there's some contributing factors that would stagnate growth, you would see about 20% deer, you'd see about 20 deer that would be added to the population year over year. That said, we've seen studies, there was a study of Southeast Illinois that showed all the way up to 73% annual growth. There's also been studies that suggest a little bit closer to 40 to 50%. That was actually a study conducted by University of Montana. And they had suggested, they studied suburban deer populations within the state of Missouri. That said, we're using the most conservative estimate possible just to show a baseline understanding of what needs to be done each year just to keep the population at current levels. So go in here real quick just to kind of show what we were planning on doing originally too, is that the most recent operations we're planning on going into the Northeast 1, Northeast 2 regions that go into areas that we may not have had access to previously. And then we were also going to be expanding into the SE1 region, including a portion of State Route 109 adjacent to NE1, NE2, and Southeast 1, and also Old State Road. So going on here, this is kind of going back to that annual population growth. We can assume at least 20% annual population growth each year. And really, and kind of get more specific with the most recent thermal drone survey that we conducted in the NE1 region that showed approximately 47 deer in that area, which was also conservative, given the fact that there could be deer that were under evergreen forest. That is 100% confirmed, 47 deer per mile in the Northeast 1 region per that study. That said, just in that area alone, just to keep the population where it is, it's about 52 deer that you have to cull each year just for Northeast 1. When you expand that same calculus out for all 6 map areas, and like I said, this is only 44% of the city, we'd have to remove roughly 351 deer each year. So when you look at what we had done the first couple of years, 361, we were targeting it, and that's the reason why we did it that way, is that we're targeting a very specific area, because if you did that across the entire city, it really wouldn't see an effect. You would just be controlling for the population that's going to be growing in the next year. So that said, the main approach and why we want to share this is that each year we have to at least remove 351. If we want to have a deer management program and sustain the population, at least 351 deer should be removed each year. Also, you would still want to keep monitoring and doing distance sampling or thermal drone surveys, whatever the council would choose, but you would want to keep constant tax on how many deer you have in these areas, because that's the best way to do it, because it is not necessarily the data that comes in the first time. It still is accurate and is statistically valid. It has a confidence interval that's provided. There is a methodology behind it. That said, if you keep doing it year over year, you're able to study the trend of that data. So just wanted to point that out as well, is that, you know, even though I'm providing these numbers that are approximations and estimates, I do want to just mention that this is conservative, and quite frankly, we need to keep studying the population to know more. All right, so jumping in here, so going back kind of the point at hand here, the existing role of bow hunters. Going back to the same point, they are already currently a part of it. One thing we are missing is data collection. We do not currently have the reporting necessary to know the true impact of archery hunting that takes place, or sharpshooting hunting that takes place within the entire city. Right now, and we'll get into our regulations versus others, we don't require any hunter to actually notify the city of the hunting activity. As long as they're meeting the requirements, they're clear to go, as long as they're meeting MDC and city requirements. That said, if someone were to call the police and say there is an individual that has a firearm or a bow in my backyard that's hunting, and an officer were to be dispatched and they got with that person and they didn't have permission to hunt, then that would pose its own risk. So it's almost a trust but verify setup that we have here in Wildwood, which helps reduce administrative burden, but also the fact that we have the 3 acre parcel minimum does allow us to kind of keep that framework in place, because it has been working over the last 30 years. That said, I just want to keep hitting this point, but right now, every time a bow hunter or a sharpshooting hunter, takes a deer, if we know that information, we can incorporate that into our model. That said, the best case scenario is that we can start getting some of this information moving forward. Here. Okay, so this is an important factor too, and it'll get into our liability discussion. The difference between professional culling and hunting. So professional culling is more of a targeted and outcome-driven setup, where you take a limited amount of space. In our case, for the first 2 years, we took the NE1 and NE2 regions. We set defined goals of how many deer we wanted to cull within that year, and then also what was the impact anticipated on the population. And when we did that, our estimates that came back tended to support the amount of deer, the population levels that we would target based off the number that we removed. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's not necessarily hunting citywide. It's finding very localized areas and slowly chipping away at the problem using contiguous landmass, as you saw NE1, NE2 down south to Southeast 1. The idea behind it was to slowly chip away at the problem, starting with the most densely populated area at 94 deer per square mile back in 2020, and then bringing it around and eventually getting out to West 1 and West 2. Hunting, by contrast, is a decentralized and organic recreational activity. That said, can it have a positive impact on our reduction efforts? Yes, 100%. Nonetheless, it's really important to understand this concept when we get to whether or not we should contract with local bow hunters. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage here before we jump in. And then real quickly, we'll go over what the city had done the last 2 years, and we'll kind of compare that to where we go forward. So back, a little history, back in 2023, the city initiated a 5-year deer management program. The idea was to reduce the deer population density from about 71.5 deer per square mile to roughly 40 deer within that 5-year period. That was supposed to be the initial target. And then overall, the idea was to have bow hunting activity take place throughout that entire time to help keep the population maintained, kind of hit at those 351 deer that need to be removed each year generally, while also going in almost the spearhead of the assault, if you will, on lowering the population. We were kind of serving as that point with white buffalo. Also on that same note, when we worked with white buffalo, the reason why we did that was for certainty about outcomes, because one thing that we were able to learn after working with them, but also from the references that we worked with as well, is that when they would go out, there was a guarantee of absolute safety. So we know if the resident that provided permission for property allowed that permission, that the individual hunter was going to be out there and they were going to discharge their weapon on that property. The bullet, sorry to be graphic here, would hit the deer on that property and the deer would drop on that property. There was, well, just for example, there were 661 deer culled within the first 2 years of our program, and there were 661 shots fired with no safety incidents reported. I think that's a very key factor here, because when we get to some of the scenarios and the liability that can come up, if you contract with just the whole hunting community, it starts to open up a few doors. That said, that's really where a lot of this came from, where we're trying to reduce the population while also guaranteeing safety and outcome across the program. So a quick summary of what was done the first 2 years. And to kind of give a visual representation, I have shown the NE1 and NE2 region again, and some of our major roadways to kind of point out the geography. But in 2024, we culled 300 deer. The target was 300 in the NE1 region. In 2025, we operated across NE1 and NE2, and we were able to cull 361 deer. There's actually 6 more deer more than what was originally targeted, which resulted in donations to local food pantries and the St. Louis Zoo. The reason why I bring this up is not necessarily just to show that the city did help quite a few families, but also helped out the St. Louis Zoo quite a bit. The Red Wolf Sanctuary, just as a FYI, they need raw carcass. They can't have processed meat, so that was helpful to them. But this is mentioned here because it explains, we could actually save approximately $200 on each deer that we cull, but the council decided actively to donate this meat, not only to be compliant with MDC and be able to get the baiting permit, but also in order to be able to say, hey, we're not just disposing of these carcasses at the local trash facility. That there's a lot of baggage that comes with that too. But when we're talking about the expenses, we're trying to show why it might have been so
That's
expensive.
21,000 pounds of meat.
That's correct. That's
a lot.
It's a lot of money.
a lot of families fed and
10 tons.
yes, but nonetheless, just wanted to point this out because, there is a way where you can save some money doing either or, it depends on how you're gonna dispose of the meat. That said, explains a decent portion of the costs that were being exhibited. Also, this is probably one of the most important updates tonight. I really wanted to hit on because it's finally the data is catching up with some of the work that was completed. This was recently published with our annual crash analysis with the Board of Public Safety. We did not have this data until last week, so want to thank the St. Louis County Police Department for their work in this, but kind of measuring the impact of the work. And when we first started this, one of the things that we wanted to be able to measure outcomes here, and the outcome of having 71.5 deer per square mile in that highly densely populated and highly trafficked areas is it leads to car accidents. And over the last, you can look back 15 years, every year it's well over 200 deer that are struck by cars each year. It varies each year a little bit. And this is a conservative baseline too, because when this data is being reported, we know 100% that a deer had been hit because the police respond to it. We don't include anecdotal reports, and that helps keep a baseline conservative estimate once again, so we can 100% say that that happened. So we're not possibly overselling any data because we want to work with conservative estimates. That said, happy to report that this most recent year, when we look at the last from 2018 to 2024, it was 239 deer on average were getting struck by cars in Wildwood and across the city. In 2025, the most recent year, where you have about 10 months of the impact of both the first year of operations, the second year, we saw that reduced down to 177. That was the first time in over 15 years where we had less than 200 deer accidents per year. That said, that's huge. 62 incidents were saved from the average. That's the data we were looking for. We didn't necessarily see it as directly in 2024, but that only half the work had been completed at that time. So overall, from our overall goal, we were only 40% through the program. So I just wanted to point that out and say, from what we were trying to achieve up front, when it comes to reducing the population of it, we were doing that. And now it's starting to show within the deer vehicle collision stats that are being recorded. And just as an example here, this is a very recent estimate of how much this is costing the motorists that come through Wildwood, but more so the residents, because that's where a lot of these accidents happen. That's who's impacted. $6,466 is estimated for each repair for every deer that's hit by a car. And that is borne by the individual that ends up hitting the deer. And I can anecdotally say that the majority of the staff here in Wildwood has hit a deer on their way home from work, have had a lot of close calls. So it is something that was one of the main things we were trying to achieve, is lowering those counts. So when you actually multiply that out by the number of deer accidents that were saved, hopefully attributed to what we had done, it could be around $400,000 in savings from damages. So that's the department personally believes that was a really great finding. We're happy to see that. And it did show kind of a reward for the work that had been done thus far. A little bit more of a specific example, because there was 2 years of operations, kind of getting back to the culling versus hunting across the whole city, and just the any one area alone to kind of see that decrease over time. In 2023, before any operations had taken place, there were 71 deer strikes that occurred. In 2024, that went down to 54. And then back in 2025, this most recent year, we saw that decrease further to 43. So it shows that consistent downward trend, which also aligns with the downward trend we had seen with the deer density. So it helps support that conclusion that as you lower the deer population density, you also lower the number of deer collisions that take place within the city. So going back to the program effectiveness, the only reason why I wanted to point this little note out at the bottom was that this took a sustained, targeted effort to get to where we are now. I just want to point out too that should we not do anything, you would have recruitment that does take place, which is population growth, and those deer would increase unless you can effectively say that at least 351 are being removed each year, and it's most likely very much more than that. But just wanted to point out that sometimes the data takes a second to catch up, but we hope that the most recent deer vehicle collision analysis kind of helps illustrate the purpose of what we were doing over the past 2 years. Okay, so we already kind of mentioned this, but just a quick note about the program currently. Back in December, it was halted, and the council did not approve the initial contract with White Buffalo. That said, local bow hunters did continue hunting naturally, so hunting activity still occurred. There was sharpshooting hunting activity. We didn't get any of the data though. That's an important piece that we'll get to at the end. But at the end of the day, it was just the city's professional sharpshooting program that was halted. And the motion to put the feasibility report together, we're talking about that now, and then we plan to take the recommendations tonight and present that to the full council on April 13th on Monday. So going into the regulatory framework where Wildwood is now, and kind of comparing it to some of our neighbors, just wanted to point out too that in the report at the end, there is that chart that helps illustrate some of the differences between some of the other municipalities' regulations and Wildwood's to kind of lay a little bit, get a better understanding up front. The state of Missouri, they don't necessarily govern some of the specifics that you might think they would. They do govern when lawful seasons can take place, what kind of permitting methods take place, the tags that hunters are able to get. They govern all of those components. That said, the city is more so in charge of the operational component. So we are, a couple key factors of ours includes the 3-acre lot minimum, the fact that you can't have, you can't fire an arrow within 200 feet of a school or structure or anything like that without written permission. And then also, just as another finding too, if a school's in session, it has to be down to 100 feet. That said, when you look at other cities that are surrounding Wildwood in the near region, I just wanted to point out that they do allow archery hunting, firearm hunting. I know, not firearm, archery hunting specifically on parcels as small as 1 acre. And a lot of them do allow multiple property owners, as long as they don't cross a street, to aggregate their parcels to meet minimum parcel size requirements and setback requirements. That said, the trade-off here is Wildwood currently allows hunting on 3-acre minimums, but we don't necessarily have a notification or regulatory framework that forces them to submit a bunch of paperwork to the city saying they're doing it and reporting on the harvest data. All the other cities that do have the 1-acre minimums, they also require mandatory property owner permission. So the city actually gets a letter from the property owner saying, hey, this individual can hunt on the property. They usually require individuals to submit actual certificates of insurance, whether they be made up of the property owner themselves, the hunter, or a combination of both. The city actually needs that physical copy of insurance on hand. The other cities typically require either a permitting system, which the difference between a permit and just a notification. One is just you have to notify the city. The other is you actually have to wait for the permission from the city. And then usually you see that hunters have to report their take within 48 hours of the kill. So there's some other regulations that could be helpful too, that, the field dressing regulations, where, when, how quickly you need to be able to get the deer off the site, how you should do that. Also, some other cities actually show a little bit more tangible and proactive regulations, in the sense that you have to have deer height stands at a certain height, have it. Some get as crazy as saying, here's the trajectory, you can't fire an arrow at this angle. It gets pretty minute. That said, the reason why I bring this up is that the key difference between Wildwood and these other cities is really the minimum acreage requirement, the setback requirement that kind of goes naturally with it. And then also, flip side of that is all the requirements that come with having that smaller parcel requirement. One point I did want to point out, and we've talked to multiple cities, and we've looked through all the codes that are provided, all the city codes that are provided in the report tonight. No other city actually contracts with bow hunters. They do have a permitting system where they go in and they allow bow hunters, bow hunting groups, anything to come in, they submit their paperwork, and then they're able to, operate within the city effectively. That was a really key finding, because we did talk with the Missouri Department of Conservation too, and they confirmed that bow hunting is occurring all across the state, many areas. That said, when it comes to actually contracting with local hunters in your area, there is no example or precedent set by other cities in our area, but also across the state of Missouri. There's been a couple examples that the city's been able to find of other municipalities having managed hunts on their own local park grounds, which we'll cover a little bit here. That said, it's not to the extent of, hey, the city's gonna go out and retrieve private property access for anyone who wants to participate, or even a group that wants to participate in the bow hunting. So just wanted to point that out. And going in here, another point that I wanted to be made is just kind of we wanted to look at the regulations, which are very important, and learning from our neighbors is very important too. Nonetheless, I think it's important to understand the scale of Wildwood as well, because we are somewhat different from the cities that are nearby that have a lot of these programs, and the 1-acre minimum too, and something we could discuss, but nonetheless, I think it would be something we would need to most likely get a lot of feedback from the residents from. But City of Wildwood's 68 square miles in size. So when you think about that, if you're running a permitting program for all the hunting activity that's taking place, the amount of actual permits that would need to be processed, you can attribute that, and you'll see that naturally increase by the amount of land that's eligible for hunting. So Wildwood's 68 square miles, the closest is our neighbor Chesterfield at 31. I just want to remind folks of this because, when you look at a lot of these other cities, they range from 2 to 10 square miles. Wildwood has a very large footprint, and we'll show it in the map that a lot of it is 3 acre parcels. So right now hunting is allowed in the majority of the city. That said, you know, in these other cities, there's not many 3 acre parcels left. So really their only option is to allow 1 acre parcels. So I just wanted to point that out up front, so that we kind of understand at least the magnitude and scope. Because if we were to want to look into our code a little bit further and possibly revise it, that's something we're going to have to keep in mind moving forward. Going in here just about the parkland as well. And this is where we actually got some recent new data today. But when we look at some of our state and county parks and in the map that was provided in the report, you'll see Greensfelder, you'll see Babbler, you'll see Rockwoods Reservation and Rockwoods Range. All 4 of those parks, one being a county, Greensfelder, all of those parks actually have managed hunts take place within them each year. We get notifications from the county for Greensfelder. We also get notifications from the state when they're operating in the other areas. That said, I did want to note that Babbler doesn't do archery, a managed archery hunt. They do a muzzle loader and cap and ball, but nonetheless, they do have a managed hunt there. And the way it works, it's 11 square miles of the city are made up of these massive parks. And, you know, these parks are open to any hunter that would potentially want to participate. And the most recent data that came out from the 2025-2026 hunts, actually 88 deer were successfully harvested within all these parks, which is great to see. That said, there were 288 hunters that got the lottery drawn. They ended up participating, and of them, 65 were successful. So just wanted to point out kind of the effectiveness of those. And I just want to remind everyone too, the sheer size. I mean, 11 square miles of the 68 that we're talking here are all parkland that are open. And right now, hunters could, as long as they're registered with MDC, they can actually sign up and possibly get drawn to participate in hunting in those areas. We don't have any control over the hunting that takes place within these parks. That said, when we look at city-owned land, so if we want to duplicate those efforts, we tried to look at that as well, because that could be a tool, and we've seen other cities do it. That said, when you look at it, the city doesn't own very much land. It's just true. Even though it's a city of Wildwood, 68 square miles, it's a huge city. We really own this parcel here. We own Community Park. We have Partner Park, which is a little bit of an outlier, and we own Anniversary Park. Those are the real options that we have. And when you map those out in our city, you'll see that they're a little bit spread out, but they don't give you the adequate coverage you need to just say, hey, we're gonna hunt these park properties. I think there could be something where you do that as a supplement to what you would naturally do. But if you just were to say, all right, how we're gonna approach this issue is we're just gonna have managed hunts in our park property, you're not gonna have the infiltration necessary across the entire area that needs to be culled in order to actually have a meaningful impact. You will see a reduction around the park, which is great. But if you're looking at a citywide approach, I just want to keep hitting this home tonight, is that the city is very large, and you're going to need more than just the park properties owned by the city in order to effectively reduce it and get to even numbers that we were able to start approaching over the last 2 years. So a moment on that too, and then I did also want to point out too that whatever program or whatever steps the city does take, we're going to need private property owners to help out, pitch in. And just as a note to that too, when we talk to a lot of the private property owners that have worked with us over the past couple of years, a lot of them are already allowing bow hunting activity and sharpshooting activity in some instances when they were west of 109. They already allow that activity on their site. We've actually had a couple instances where you actually had them almost lined up and we had to create a buffer zone between the two because they can impact each other. The amount of deer that are kind of native and naturally inclined to come to this debate after operations take place and normal hunting takes place. That said, I just think I really want to hit home tonight that, you know, we definitely have some properties that meet the 3 acre minimum. We could set something up, but when you start looking at it about the amount of investment and resources and time that would be necessary to set up a managed hunt on those properties, and talking with our partners with the county and MDC about what it takes to set one of these up for themselves, it would be a great supplement and something we could explore, but it's not going to solve the problem. That's the main point I want to bring up. It's a tool in the tool belt. Okay. So another thing, I know it's a long presentation and I appreciate everybody's patience tonight, but kind of going into these differences in definitions, I just wanted to point this out too, and going back to permitting versus contracting, a couple points here that, you know, property access when we're permitting the activity, which right now we do permit it, we don't have an actual permit that's issued, but we permit the activity. The property access is secured by the hunter himself, or, you know, as a property owner that calls a hunter, whatever it might be. The hunters and landowners, they assume the responsibility for compliance, safety, and liability. Everything that happens out there is attainable to those individuals, and if the city were to get a call, depending on what the issue was, we would treat it as such. But nonetheless, it doesn't tie into the city, and it doesn't give any additional risk to the city liability wise. When it comes to what we do, I mean, we do have an administrative framework in the sense that we have guidelines that they have to follow, and if we find out they're not following it, we can prove it, there's repercussions. And that's why, you know, we do have prohibitions that you can't shoot over roadways. There's certain things in our code too, and other codes, that can't shoot within 200 feet with a structure, et cetera, but we don't necessarily go out there and watch folks hunt while they're doing it. When a city contracts a hunter or contracts an individual or group, the city's assuming the liability. That is 100% true. And at the end of the day, whoever is hunting on behalf of the city, you almost can think of it like this: whatever action takes place that the city helped guide, the city is liable for it. There's a way to tie the city back into the liability. And from a municipal risk standpoint, you need guarantee of public safety. You need guarantee that no property damage will occur, that no disputes will happen across neighbors. Things can get dicey very quickly if you have a lot of operations taking place with a lot of people over a lot of time. That said too, you know, there is ways to control for some of this with liability insurance, et cetera, but nonetheless, there is case study out there that hunter goes out, and I have some scenarios in the report, I put a couple in here too, but hunter goes out on the property, you know, hits a deer, the deer is not dead, it runs out into the road, gets hit by a car. That person driving the car has every right to sue the city because the city directed and helped guide that hunt to take place. And if we were the reason why the permission of the property happened, then they can effectively make the case that we are the reason why they hit the deer in the first place. So that's just one example. We have a couple more, but I just want to point that out because contracting is different than permitting. And quite frankly, if we permit it and we can help record some of the data, and we can even look at some of our code provisions to see if there's some ways to increase opportunity. I think all that the department thinks it's a great way to, you know, help support the effort. That said, when we contract, we just need to understand the amount of liability and risk that we are taking on because it is risk. And even with White Buffalo, there was risk associated with it. What calmed those fears was that the experience that they had and the fact that we had a lot of data from other municipalities, but also other vendors across the country. But the thing that's kind of gets down to the nuts and bolts of this is when they pulled the trigger, the deer was hit in the head and the deer dropped right there. The deer didn't leave the property line. So that was the key factor that makes it so, yeah, you could say the city definitely did help with the access component, but we'd almost need a guarantee from whoever would take that mantle to say, I can guarantee to you that the deer will not leave the property after it's struck or after the activity takes place. That is something to really ring true and keep in mind as we go through this. And real quickly here. Okay, so getting to what we were just talking about, the difference between being a regulator and versus being an active participant. So right now we are a regulator. When hunting activity takes place within the city, we are effectively enforcing our code. People call the police or call the city. We would dispatch police or code enforcement, whatever it might be, out to assess the situation and be able to cite individuals if necessary. But when it comes to liability, the risk is on the individual and the property owner. If we are to contract, we become the active participant. We are actively guiding and overseeing the operation, meaning anything White Buffalo would have done, but also anything that, you know, a group of hunters would do. That's on the city. It's directly tied to us and we could be held accountable for any actions that take place. All right, a couple hypotheticals. I'll skip over this because it was in the report, but you know, it kind of goes into some of the more nuanced situations that could take place. I mean, you know, I wanted to provide a couple of examples, not only because, you know, you have the obvious situation where deer gets hit, doesn't pass away, and continues running, crosses property lines, and then possibly a trespass issue. I think that's what comes to mind when most people think about it. But going back to what we were just talking about, you could have one where, you know, a deer is struck and then a car, it might not even be the fact that the deer ran out in front of the car, but the car hits the deer somehow. The city somehow is now tied into that situation because We helped get the property access and we're contracting with the entity that's acting as an agent of the city. Moreover, if you have an individual that, possibly the city's, administering the program, we confirm this property line, but, maybe there's a miscommunication somewhere in between. And then maybe a discharge occurs off a property that we actually had access to. It happens on another property, or the arrow crosses or a bullet crosses, whatever it might be, onto a property that you didn't have access to. That property owner wants to hold the city hold whoever accountable, they could hold the city accountable too. It just goes to show, like, think about it, anything that happens after you turn individuals into agents of the city can be tied back to and be held liable for. So from a risk management perspective, you need guarantees that those incidents will never happen. It might not happen, or it could happen, but it's not likely. It can never happen, because if it does, not only does the liability come in and the city is in jeopardy legally and financially, but also, just from a trust perspective from the public, if we're tied to an incident like that, it's something that the city would have a lot of trouble with. And that said, just wanted to bring that up because there is a plethora of different things that could go wrong. That said, I know a lot of hunting activity occurs every day. We don't hear anything about it. So that said, it's more so the risk, the outstanding risk that sits there day to day. Not saying though, at the end of the day, we need all these bow hunting activities. It's just a question of, do we want to be an active participant in the activity, or do we want to be a regulator like we are today? Going on here, this is, I think, a very key graphic. We've got a map in the report. Every area in blue on the presentation shown here is currently 3 acres or more. So if you see that, that's where, when I was saying 70% or more of the city is 3 acres or greater, that is currently the situation we're faced with. And quite frankly, if you look at the green areas and the red, green represents 1 to 3 acres, and then the red areas represent 1 acre or less. So when you break those down by number, it's 881 parcels that are over 3 acres. You would add effectively, if you reduced it to 1 acre or more, you would add effectively 1,600 or so parcels to the mix. That said, most of the parcels that are 1 acre or more, you'll notice, at least the ones that are east of 109, they're directly adjacent or almost even connected to subdivisions that are less than 1 acre. So just getting into a footprint of deer that may be running after being struck, you may want to take that into account. That said, I also wanted to point out, just once again, the city does not have much land suitable for active hunting activities. So it's not like we have perfectly placed properties where we could go do this, because that would actually be the best case scenario. We'd be able to control for risk the most in that case. So kind of hitting back, we need help from the people, the parcels, the property owners, people that own the properties in blue here. That's who we require and need help from to make any program, whether it be through hunting or through a program ran by the city. That's who we need help from. Looking at it, if you want to aggregate parcels, that's something that is in other cities as well. If you do that, it does create some additional, all the areas in red would highlight, would come into play potentially. And one note that we wanted to point out tonight, we recently just saw this when we were reviewing a set of indentures, is that some HOAs actually have prohibitions against hunting within their HOAs, within their subdivisions. Doesn't mean necessarily that we don't enforce indentures as the city, but it just kind of adds another wrinkle into this whole calculation of, you start getting into some of the more denser subdivisions. Typically, they outlaw any kind of hunting activity in the subdivision. If that's just another scenario where we could be put directly at odds, we permit an individual to allow this activity where serving an agent of the city is now on that property actively hunting. And then all of a sudden, the HOA comes out and says, hey, we never approved this activity, even though we don't enforce indentures. And legally, we are in the right because state code, city code trumps the HOA indentures. That said, now we put the property owner who's willing to participate in the line of fire of their HOA. So it's just, once again, adding another little nuance point to this whole calculation. And then further, just kind of getting back to the point of voluntary participation, because right now hunting activity is occurring on a lot of these properties. So especially the 11 square miles of park property that are noted here, you've got managed hunts taking place there. I think there could be an argument to be had. Maybe Babbler incorporates some archery hunting. They have muzzleloader right now, but that could be a discussion with MDC. Still, nonetheless, those properties are not managed by the city, and there's other properties in blue those are private property owners, and they have to be the one to guide any decision, even if the city were to participate. They have to say yes, and then quite frankly, if you think the deer might cross over a property line, if you don't have enough distance to meet the setback requirements, then you need access to the adjacent property owner as well, which creates administrative burden and quite frankly, would need quite a bit of staff time and resources to be able to oversee. Okay, so kind of, sorry, long-winded presentation tonight, do apologize, but wanted to make sure this was given the time and effort that was necessary to really kick off and do this right. Nonetheless, you know, a couple of items, just wanted to point out again, you know, we are currently, and we support as a city, local bow hunting throughout the entire city, everywhere in blue, going back, everywhere in blue, we'd love to see bow hunting happen as soon as deer, archery season begins. And honestly, if they could tell us the number of deer that they take each year, that would be excellent. If we could incorporate that into the data that we already have and then compare that to if we do distance sampling in the future, that could then play a role and help shape how we got those numbers. Not only that, but it is currently permitted under our current regulations. And we have, you know, public land that's available that individuals can sign up for and are currently signing up for. And then also just wanted to point out that hunting is currently provided that MDC regulations and city regulations are met. Hunters are currently contributing to the population reduction efforts we've seen. So when we saw those reduction in deer collisions, that was, you know, a lot of what the city did, but I don't want to underscore the fact that we want hunters out there working in these areas, because if they go out and they hunt on these 3-acre parcels, they are doing our job for us. So it's a good thing. Nonetheless, helpful if they could help with they could submit reporting to the city showing what takes that take place. Also just showing at the end of the day, really, you know, when it comes down to it, contracting private hunters, you know, can it be done legally? Yes, it can, but if we do, we are taking on a significant amount of liability unless whoever that entity is can be able to say that and guarantee to the city that the deer will not leave the property at which they get hit, or that no property disputes are going to occur, that they have all that taken in place and that we're not going to be at risk. That said, getting to the recommendations for tonight and moving into the council meeting. The department's recommending that we maintain the current regulatory framework for now, which allows hunting on 3-acre minimums and has been working and has been in place for approximately 30 years. We do think that if we were going to make a code change, the best thing we could do is require or work with the bow hunters to have them report harvest data to the city, specifically not age, but sex, location of the kill. That kind of information could really help us out. And a map that we showed tonight for parcels by acre, we could actually pinpoint all those hunts and also those kills across, and it could be very helpful in our analysis. So that's another component. Then also, big one, number 3, is that we should not be contracting with local hunters or facilitating property access. Those two things dramatically increase liability, and the risks just strictly, they outweigh the benefits from our analysis. There is another component here where we could consider permitting or notification requirements that are similar to other cities. Something we could definitely look at. That said, I just want to remind everybody of the scale of Wildwood versus those cities. And then last, this is just mentioned because other cities do have this in place. Review the minimum acreage requirements that the city currently has, and then figure out is the city of Wildwood a place that needs to have, you know, 3-acre minimums? Do we want to look at that? I think further study could be done. Nonetheless, I think anything we do, if we're going to reduce the acreage requirements, you know, when you look at that map again, and you look at the green, especially if you allow aggregation of parcels, I think it would be of utmost importance to get direct feedback from the residents that would be added to the program effectively and their neighbors if we were to make that type of change. So that little component, just wanted to add the asterisk next to it, that if we wanted to look at that further, I think direct input from the individuals that live there would be astute and would help guide that decision. But nonetheless, I just want to say at the end of it too, you know, to any bow hunters possibly listening, please continue bow hunting in Wildwood. We do need your help because we have too many deer. Thank you, and available for any questions. Sorry for the long presentation.
No, there's a lot of data there. we'll go to some questions, because then I have two or three that kind of sparked as I watched through it. Cliff,
Well, I have a little bit to say, if that's okay.
hey, he had what, an hour?
Yeah, I don't have
Go
that
for it,
much.
man.
You know, I know we're much bigger than everybody else, but I think we really have to take a look at using bow hunters in our area, because really everybody around us is doing it. And it doesn't mean we have to, but they're making it work. Couple meetings ago, Mr. Sherman talked and thought he was very professional and very respectful in his presentation. Same thing tonight, which a lot of those presentations weren't very respectful over the last 6 months. So we've talked a few times and shared things, and I just want to go over some things. I've talked to the cities around us and found out more things than I didn't know. And Tom, everything you put together was great. This spreadsheet's really great here. This says a lot, you know. But just Michael's group, Certified Bow Hunters, there's 10 of them, right?
Correct.
And they took out 125 deer last season themselves, which is pretty remarkable. I didn't think that that small group could do that many, but and he did that mostly in Eureka. Eureka uses them almost exclusively for all their areas, their parks, and the Legends Golf Course. So his group comes pretty respected from Eureka, Baldwin, and Sunset Hills, and probably more, but those are the ones I got down. You know, interesting enough, Chesterfield's been using bow hunting for 20 years and had no idea. The person I talked there said they only had to take out 50 to 75 deer last year. So I guess they got their problem under control. Baldwin has been using it for a few years, but they took out 30 deer last year. Clarkson Valley, 10 to 15 last year. Ellisville, no program. But it just seems like the bigger city square miles, us, Chesterfield, Eureka, can kind of compare them a little bit more than the other ones. And, you know, just in hearing what Tom's saying with the recommendations, I'm not recommending for any hiring or contracting, right? I would think a permitting program would work good for us here. And you know, I certainly would advocate for Michael to meet with us to see if he could help serve us in this area. I think he's the right person for the job from what I've seen in talking to people. And from what I understand, if we do a permit program, the city would have to have a packet of files, you know, with insurance and all this stuff on file at the city. And then the bow hunters have to report each deer taken out to that particular city and the bow hunting, and I'm sorry, conservation department, right? So I don't know if there's anything more to it that we would have to do as a city, but if it's fairly simple like that, I think that's really worth pursuing. I also think we should do a drone survey before the season. And I would want the other side to agree they will accept the results, so to speak. I don't know if, not Michael, but Mr. Mitchell never accepted anything that we said to him. So I would want to make sure it's accepted by the other side. And, you know, at the end of it, you know, with missing this season, we may need both groups to make this work. We may need, you know, we might find we need to take out 400 or 500 deer next year. I don't know. I think you made the point you were looking for help from the city to communicate with residents, right? And I don't know if there's anything possible that way, but I did tell Michael that we do have some strained relationships with some of our residents, because Mr. Mitchell sent out letters to them and got some people upset, you know, so there's some repair work to do with some of those residents because of this. And lastly, I know some of our fellow council members are gonna make the motion to go to 1 acre. And I'm not sure at this point, good or bad. I don't know if I'm there yet with that, okay? And I know some of our council member are gonna suggest getting our police department involved in it too. Which I don't know if that works, but apparently maybe some other communities do that way. But just long summary, short summary here, just I'm really for his group getting involved with this and see if we can make something work, you know, so.
I'm not allowed to talk, am I?
Not yet.
No, okay.
Can I ask questions of your comment?
Yeah,
So when you listed those other cities that
yeah,
participate, like you're saying by participate, they don't contract, they just
permit.
require the permits,
Right.
okay? And
It's all,
then-
it's all on here too, you know, what,
Right,
yeah.
right. But then is anyone, like when you talk about Mr. Sherman's group, but if you're doing permits through the city, anybody could come and get a permit, like, right? I'm
Right,
asking that, like you
right.
can't say only this group can come and get.
No, we need more than his 10 and
Right,
he
right.
probably has access to getting more, you
Right,
know?
I just wanted to clarify
Right,
that because I didn't
right.
understand. And then is all of that, all those hunters required when they get the permit, are required to donate? Or are they allowed to keep some? Because I just know from comments in council meetings,
Mhm.
some of the people that were speaking, and I'm not blaming them for wanting to keep what they
Right.
get. So I don't know if that would make a difference in them reporting it, because if they want to keep it, they're not gonna want to report it, obviously, because they don't want to have to donate it.
Oh,
But I don't know what other communities do if the donation part of it is required.
you keep most of them, right?
I know the answer to that.
Good answer.
Sure, I just wanna make sure we keep, we got.
Right, no, I know there's a lot
A lot of
to do.
meeting to, but go ahead then and answer.
For the Missouri Department of Conservation's construct, if I'm buying the tag, which is what we typically do, and it's in a normal season, the hunter has the option to keep the deer. In my case, my hunters decide whether they keep it or they donate it to several different programs. If we're using the nuisance tags, which is what they issue to white buffalo, the deer has to be donated, the entire deer, horns, hoofs, everything.
Thanks.
More questions, Tracy?
Nope, sorry. Just wanna make sure I-
Mr. Mabry, anything?
Nothing in way of question. It's going to be the first and highest priority number one, and it's going to be the next 5 highest priority number ones. That the city shall not, cannot, will not ever be drawn into the exposure to what could so quickly, we can't comprehend it. A liability that we are elected to protect the residents of the city against any probability or possibility by contracting out to what was an acceptably certified, acceptably qualified, acceptably records kept to prove, not just trust, but verify, but already have verified without having to trust anything. That's what the city contracted for. And I don't know what the verbiage or what the 5 pages or 7,000 pages of the contract was and what bonding agency, what insurance agency it was, but it was enough to satisfy the concern, my overriding concern, that who we contract with, and I didn't say who we permit with or who we team with or anything else, but who we contract and never allow our residents to be exposed to even a penny's worth of either injury, which to me is worse than financial wreckage. But it's something we're charged with, and we're going to be letting our residents down, all whatever 35,000 of them there are, whether they like hunting, whether they like deer, whether they live on 1 acre, 3 acres, or 6 acres, or 200 acres. That's it. That's really all it is. And bow hunters and rifle hunters, and shotgun hunters are by definition not automatically required to have already established a insurance bond or a certification of proficiency or a record of not having ever harmed an animal that they did not retrieve and it bled out, or that they did not run across property to someone else's to just a few feet to pick up the deer that they butt shot. It just does not calculate to logic to me. In my role of protecting the residents, my role of protecting their right to protection. That's all.
Mr. Farmer. Yeah, Tom, I just want to say that was a very long presentation and thank you. Thank you for making it. I'm going to recommend that we
You have to take a break.
probably shorten that a little bit for Monday night. But I know that you have spent a lot of time and energy on it, and so I appreciate you doing that. I guess maybe I made this a question for you, Cliff, just so I can understand. At least what I heard was outside of the green and red parcels, people can bow hunt however they want, as long as they're doing it during the season or whatever, they can
Right.
do whatever they want,
Right.
get permission. So I guess I'm unclear if we were to kind of choose a group. I'm afraid that would then preclude anybody else from being interested in doing it. And from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, but looking at that graph of the different cities, outside of the parcel size, it looks to me like Wildwood is the most open and easy to do this in. So I think I'm all for getting the data points. I think that's an important thing. And if we can find a way to do that easily, I think that's great. A drone survey for the entire city is gonna be like $80,000 or something crazy. So, I guess if we wanna spend $80,000 to do that, we could.
We have saved the money from not doing any.
We did, but now we're gonna have, however we do it, we're gonna have ground to make up. To me, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later,
Sure.
but to me, we've done this distance surveying. I think we probably should be continuing to do that just so we know what's going on.
Right.
I think it's also important to distinguish the difference between the two areas where we have done work and the rest of the city where we have not. But when we did the drone survey the last time, that basically confirmed the numbers that we thought we were having. So to me, I think it is objectively impossible to go count every deer in the city anyways, so it's all gonna wind up being a math equation. And so if we can figure out a way to have that math equation pretty close without spending $80,000, I think I'd be probably more inclined on that, but whatever. But I guess to me, the only difference that I can see that is really to be considered is, do we change this parcel size? Which is not exactly the question that we're trying to answer here, although it's a fine question to ask. But I do think, just like we did with the solar survey a couple years ago or whatever it is, when you're gonna incorporate, 9,300 additional properties, I think it certainly is, that to me is one of those times when we probably should ask the residents what they want, because there is, I know after this letter that you're referring to went out, I got calls from HOAs saying, I don't want anybody doing anything. I don't care who it is, and nobody is invited back. So I think it is gonna be difficult it took us a number of years to get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
The brakes have been slammed on this
Right.
ball and it has been pushed back up the hill. So whatever we wind up doing, we got a lot of ground to cover. So I would just say, Tom, I think this is a great comprehensive report. I would put it in the background so people can see it, but I would keep it to a relatively small number of bullet points. And from what I'm hearing, your recommendation is more or less keep it the way that it is and figure out how we can get data back to see if who is hunting what and how that's working out.
Joe, just clarify.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that Mr. Sherman's group is the only one to
Sure.
do it. We need some kind of leadership of the group, and he might be willing to do that. But I would assume a lot of the people that have been coming to the meetings, they're in the same network, you know, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I've gone out, I went out to, it was in Baldwin with bow hunter, and I walked through where he was hunting, and I got how they were doing it. You know, I mean, I think that there's plenty of guys out there. The difficult thing is, you know, getting access to private property, which the city can't really do anything. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We can't make people do it. And the more we would, I think, push beyond anything to encourage it, the more, as Mr. Mabry said, the more responsibility for things come on. I mean, I think that, you know, one of the things I look at, and it was long, I apologize, Tom, if I missed this or forgot it, but, you know, I was looking at these numbers that we got back on these managed hunts. And, you know, there's a lottery system of some kind where they're kind of drawing names, so you don't really get to know who is doing what. But some of those numbers don't look they look, I'm sure they're excellent hunters or whatever, they're just not returning a lot of deer. And so, I mean, I would be a little concerned if we go out and do a distance survey and we figure out that through the vast majority of the city where we've had operation, you know, guys can go out and do whatever they want for the last 30 years and the deer count is in the 70s. I don't know, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I remember when we did this the first time, the concept was, you know, deer culling and deer hunting are the result is the same in that you have a dead animal, but the concepts are two different things. And so when you're trying to get these astronomical numbers that we have under control, I think you have to be able to do that in an effective way. And if we were to go out and get even the proposal that got put forward back in December, you know, if we took 300 deer out of the city, that still means the city's growing by 200 deer. So not looking, you know, that's the difference between doing those two things. And I think, you know, getting this crash data back is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, we know that that's a way underreported number already, but I mean, that's a pretty significant drop in accidents and, you know, cost and risk. I mean, you know, thankfully, to my knowledge, I don't know, Captain Mandela, if you'll remember this, I don't think anybody's been killed by a deer hitting it, but it's certainly a possibility. You know, I mean, I've seen some pretty bad deers through windshield accidents and things like that. So, I mean, I think we need to get it a little bit more compressed, but I mean, the fact that most of that map is blue, I don't know what else.
And to interject, you brought up surveys. I wasn't gonna bring that up tonight. Tom and I talked about it, and he said it probably would be brought up if somebody does make the motion to go to the 1 acres. Then I think you said we would owe a survey to go out to those 1 to 3 acre people. And that's not a tremendous amount of money to do that, right? It was,
I think so.
But we can't even do it, most of that, right? Because of the airport.
He's talking about a resident survey.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I thought that too. That said, to clarify, I think what Mr. Alvarez is saying that if say that a motion was made to do just like 1 acre and not allow parcel aggregation, which that's a key factor here too. We need to think about that. But if you just did the 1 acre
Combining
change,
lots, maybe?
yeah, or you
Okay.
combine lots where you could take 2 acre lots that are contiguous and put them together and they count as one, and then they all share some type of COI if you have a permitting process. That said, if we did if we wanted to get feedback from the 1 acre residents, it's about 1,600 people, households, which feasibly we can send a mailer out to those folks. So that's where I was talking about. That would be realistic in cost, but I was saying when you talk about parcel aggregation and you have a situation where it's not only the 1 acre lots, but we're gonna allow less than 1 acres to combine to meet that 1 acre. That opens the door. Now we're talking 10,000 properties, and that survey is a little bit tougher to do. And I think the idea would be probably to do some type of random sampling if that was really the
I mean, we did it.
We did it with the-
We did the solar thing, right?
Solar.
Yeah, that's what we did on the solar.
Yep.
I mean,
how many people?
I don't mean to interrupt. I would just think if we're gonna pay to do a survey, we should probably do it so that we get the answers as compared to being like, well, we got this answer and now we should probably go back and figure out this other question.
I have a few questions I was gonna ask.
You're in charge.
And let everybody else throw their stuff out there. So one note, and again, I think it needs to be brought up again, is the Missouri Department of Conservation, they want 20 deer and we were targeting for 40.
Right.
So I mean, we're still leaving twice what they're wanting on there. So with us trying to tell them what to do, they in turn have been very clear and our number of 40 is too high. Next step I have is the accidents, and this would be Captain Mendel and the Lieutenant, that if all of the indications I can find is less than 50% of the people report a deer hit, unless the car is so bad, they don't report it. And so those numbers of things, if we say we saved out of the ones that were hit, imagine how many other people may have been hit that we didn't have anything from in order to do that as well. The next one I have, and this is where I really think we'll get a big problem, is the fact that all of those people that have 3-acre plots and greater than that, they're having friends come in and hunt. If we do a permitting program, everybody in a city. So if I have my 3 brother-in-laws come in, I have to do all the permitting for those people on my property. I gotta tell you, those people in 6 and 1, there's no way they wanna be part of that. And if they don't wanna fill out anything, and they're the ones that said, oh yeah, I got 5 buddies that come in, I went to college, they come in and bow hunt on our property. But they couldn't do that if we had a permitting process that then has to be done for all of those private property owners.
Well, and I think they'd have to also get insurance, right?
Yeah, they'd have to do
Well,
all
it
that.
depends on what the code says, but most likely.
I own property in Pennsylvania, had friends that fly from Missouri there to hunt. But that was part of the problem, is you didn't have to do any paperwork. They had to get an out-of-state permit to do it. So I think that's a bigger issue with permitting that we're not talking about, is those people who live on 3 acres or bigger now that have avid hunters, both gun and bow and arrow, that suddenly now we're gonna go to them and say, now you all have to fill out these permits. in order to do that.
Would it have to be that way?
I don't think you have a choice. You
Yeah, I
can't
think
pick out.
either
What-
any permits or
You
not.
want to hunt on your own property.
You still have to do that.
Still have to-
Permit, yeah.
And there's all these farmers, I mean, I know more over
So
in his area.
What if it was changed to just 1 to 3 acres for permits?
For instituting permits?
Yeah.
So if you just implemented a permit for 1 to 3, I think that could be done. That said, I think it's still, I would have to look into that to see if you can split that up legally. Cause I've never seen a code that says like, hey, over 3, we don't require anything, but under 3, we require all this
I would think the
information.
enforcement would get real weird, cause who knows?
I just think that's the one question I have, is the people that over the years that I've done, they're perfectly happy to bring all their family and friends in to bow hunt and to hunt on their properties.
But
But they're not in our subdivisions. They're
I don't think these bow hunters are going to the larger properties now.
They're not.
I don't think they are they?
I think
they
the
can.
ones I've talked to.
We wouldn't know
are.
about it. That's what I'm saying, is they.
I don't know either. I don't know. Okay.
I know a
The
lot that
guy-
do.
The ones I've talked to all have, their little hunting spots around town that
Right.
they go to, they're on these big,
They own it, right?
no, they're going to somebody else's
They
place.
know the person, and the person
A
will
lot of
let
people
them
lease
do
their,
it.
like, there's people that lease their land out and like.
But
they
there's a
sell access out.
larger acreage thing. They're over 3 acres.
Yeah,
Or-
Yes, a lot of 6 acres. up
Well,
in Bob's.
I guess I understand that then. That's why I'm saying maybe we can be set up for 1 to 3 acres for these bow hunters to participate in then.
Just a comment.
Sure.
That just immediately struck me as illegal. You can't legally, no matter who you are, you can't put up, you'd be not only inviting, you'd be compelling property owners that you're making a restrictive code that, whether it's emotionally, financially, constitutionally, you're infringing on my rights because I couldn't afford to buy 3 acres. I was constrained to buying a house in a subdivision with only 1 acre, and now you're curtailing my civil liberties. I'm just being, yeah, I shirk too.
What do you
It's
mean?
not that I would ever do it. It's not what
Well,
I would
because like
mean.
if you opened
It's not
up,
what I mean. It's what a million other
if
people
you
are going
opened
to
it
be.
up to say, okay, we're gonna let people with 1 acre hunting now.
Right.
But you now also have to have permits, but only this group of people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we would probably, I mean, I don't know, it's certainly a question for John, but I think that would be probably a difficult hurdle to get over. It would, I just think that the legal advice would probably be you either have permits or you do not have permits. But it's
That's
not,
typically the standard, is treat everyone exactly the same. unless there's something very quantifiable that's making the difference, which.
Well, I don't know enough to say how it's been done elsewhere that has a mixture of properties like.
I mean, either way, I would think if we were to even, I mean, I kind of think in general, if we were to even consider something like that, you still then go back to ask, like, taking a survey of residents and, you know, figuring all that stuff out. And, you know, I think if you do, I think if you do a survey of residents and, you know, the answers aren't what many of us would expect.
Right.
Then that's worth a conversation. If you do a survey of residents and the answers come back as would be expected, then, you know, then the question becomes, why do you keep spending money to do this?
I guess the other question would be is, and if you would mind, how did the other cities tell the property owners
That's what I was just gonna ask, that they have
that
to.
you
get a
could
permit.
come and hunt on, I mean, I gotta tell you, I don't even think we could put it in the Gazette, because we can't advertise without that liability. So how do they know to contact you?
So we have to fill out, in most cases, an application to hunt. And it lists all the properties that we have worked with the landowner on, got their signature, giving us written permission. And then my group, in my case, submits that to the city.
But the city's not you're getting the permission
Oh, yeah.
and providing it to the city,
Yeah,
not the other way.
absolutely.
around.
Yeah, and I think that's where the distinction is between, and I appreciate you calling this out, between hunting versus culling. So, you know, obviously, and I don't wanna take us way back, but the intent was not to use people shooting rifles to cull a deer, use your bow hunters. That's the expanded season, the baiting, and the access. The general hunting perspective, obviously, access to that less than 3 acres would be ideal. The variance there from Wildwood, which makes them different from most of the other cities, is they don't allow the discharge of any firearms. Baldwin, Sunset Hills, so there's no question about, you know, people shooting their rifles or their muzzle loaders in how our regulations are currently set up. It's just very restrictive for anybody less than 3 acres. You can't hunt, whether you're the landowner or not. With a bow or rifle, you cannot hunt legally in Wildwood on less than 3 acres.
And that's the way we've done it for 30 years because of those challenges. So I'm not arguing with, I just,
Exactly.
my question would be is, I literally probably know 30 people who love to have people come and hunt on their property. But all you need to do is go and knock on their door and do what they want to do. We would never know about it. And so that's been the challenge, is the fact that, and they don't really want to tell us who's hunting on their property in order to do it. So it would be great if we had some way, but the city can't get involved in saying, hey, call Michael's group. I don't think we can legally do that without having to do some other steps of how did you get connected? So I don't know, you guys use Facebook, you do your own thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I think from a city perspective, having a specific set of regulations for that 1 to 3 acres is probably a smart choice. And, you know, and again, appreciate the collaboration here. One of the other things, Mr. Lee, that I really suggest if you, especially if you're gonna consider that 1 acre, is that the city require notification of the contiguous neighbors. All the other cities do that. And that helps the city, one, because you're, you know, the property owner has to notify their neighbors. And two, it helps us as the bow hunter, because the way I do it is I do the notifications, in some cases knock on doors, other cases mail letters. And I put on their question, will you allow us to retrieve a deer if it goes onto your property? And they check yes or they check no. So I have that written approval before a deer is ever being harvested. Things, and that's where I went, and we can have all kinds of conversations, I don't want to take up your time, about the little things that make the group that I lead professional bow hunters and understanding those intricacies about urban deer and urban environments that make us much more effective.
I just think there's a lot of things we could maybe help you with on the 3 acre and above. I'm just really struggling because I know in my ward of 5, and I think I know 2 probably as well as anyone else, people are just really hesitant about people coming on to do bow hunting. And it's all, I know it's, they're all mistakes and stuff like that, but that's just been a real fear for them. So if anybody thinks that, well, we want to get into that type of thing, I just think we need to do a whole lot more homework to try to identify. And I think that you will just shock a whole lot of people that have 3 acres or more when you start trying to do any kind of permitting. And I don't believe you can do permitting to say residential versus not urban or non-urban. I don't think you can break it out by zoning categories either. It's a permit, and that's pretty much the state requiring the permits, and then our municipality has that rights to in how you would enforce it in the state. I just don't. How many houses? So if you have a less than 1 acre, what distance do you have to get permission for? You got 5 or 6 houses around there?
If, usually they come to us and there'll be a group of 3 or 4 that get over the acreage. And then in this, again, there's a lot of people that want us to deer hunt, but we don't because it's not safe. You know, you'd be surprised.
Nope.
I go out and I walk every property and it's like, we can't do this. Just from a safety perspective. So we have some of the smaller groups where they do, and again, do they have the trees? Can we shoot down at an angle so there's no deflection? There's a lot of things that go into it before you say yes. Because this is my reputation, it's my insurance, you know, it's my bill.
Totally get it, yeah.
So my group takes it personally. But if they can do that in a safe environment, you know, there's a place in Baldwin where I've got 4 homeowners that back up to each other. And they're all elevated, lower creek bottom. They have a huge deer problem, and you know, we hunt it safely. And they're, I don't know, they're probably 1/3 of an acre each.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we just don't know where all of those are. So, but thank you so much for your comments. I guess as we want to try to get out of here before we go to 10 o'clock, yes.
Just one, not that we need more meetings, but would it be appropriate to have some kind of subcommittee on this with maybe couple council people, couple bow hunting people to try to?
I'll give you my 2 cents worth, but you can certainly make a motion for that. I've done this for like 25 years, and
Okay.
we've had subcommittee, we've had resident committees, and everything gets down to the fact, the scope of what the problem is, how to manage that, and how to work through it. So you can have any kind of committee you want, but you saw exactly what happens in a committee meeting.
Right.
Somebody's gonna throw up and make a motion, and then if they get enough votes for it, the city is gonna be stuck in a position of either legally having to say, we can't do it, or something else. So the more you try, it, just my opinion, that's why it's coming through this committee.
Right,
And then whatever recommendation we wanna send forward. Again,
well,
I never knew that we weren't doing active bow hunting, because I know bunches of people that do. I just never, and when everybody came in and said, oh, you can't hunt in Wildwood, we've been hunting in Wildwood before it was Wildwood. So,
I'm just, you know, we're getting a lot of great information from him tonight, which I think in a smaller group, maybe we did, and I understand what you're saying. But I just,
and I mean, and we can make a decision as a committee,
Right.
but then you can go to the
Right.
council and say, hey, I'm recommending
No,
we put a
I-
task force out there. And, you know, see if people are willing, because it takes a ton of time,
I.
of his time and our time.
And
And the deer are out there getting more and more.
I just think we have a growing problem, and we got a growing financial problem to be concerned about, and we've got, you know, a lot of people with eyes on the money we're spending, or, you know.
And honestly, again, that's the reason that $1 million lawsuit was targeted to go to a 5-year, because we knew going in, you
Right,
can't do what we've just done.
right,
You can't do 2 years and stop it. We
right.
were depending on the deer hunters to help all the way through the process. This was to address those major areas with accidents. And honestly, it tells me it's working. Now, it may not make every
Well,
bow
we
hunter
did
happy.
also, I mean, there was nothing that stopped the guys from hunting on the properties that were there before. They've
Exactly.
still been doing it. I mean, I talked to a guy at Larry's, I think he said he got, you know, 6 deer at the property he goes to. So, you know, that's the level of this where I think that it gets a little bit. It is the machinations of a city that makes this very difficult to do, because we've never stopped anybody from hunting outside of that acreage mark. And I mean, I don't, Mr. Sherman, I mean, I'm not a hunter, so I don't really, like, I'm reading this and it looks to me, outside of the physical parcel size, we are way more open on this stuff than a lot of these other places that are requiring permission from notifying neighbors and permits and all these other things, right? So, I mean, my concern, and you know, I've voiced this to several bow hunters. The more down this road we go, the more restrictive it gets for everybody, which is not actually going to help us in what we want to have happen, which is to get our crash numbers down and get all these other things down. I mean, I think that I think that we have invested an inordinate amount of time and energy on an issue that everybody knows what the solution is. They just don't like the solution and it's not going to change. Ed's been doing it for 25 years. Tracy and I have been doing it for 6 or 7 or whatever it is. The answer is we got way too many deer everywhere, regardless of where it is. And the more people we can get in to do it, the better. But I also think we have to try to do this in the most expeditious time frame. Like that's why this thing has worked and why we had the 5-year plan. I mean, this was, I'm not hearing anything different than what the 5-year plan was to begin with, other than we aren't doing this.
We're a
this year.
year off. yeah.
Right.
Let me, 2 things, and I'll kind of shut up. Did we have any deer management program before that?
No, because it was,
That many years
that was a problem, and
Right.
every time we try to get so far,
Okay, I'm just
we said,
clarifying.
we can't afford it.
Okay,
So the last 2 years, not this year, the last
Right.
2 years before that is the only actual deer management that's been
now,
done.
if we were able to do this white buffalo for the 5 consecutive years, would our problem be eliminated?
No, it's never gonna get eliminated.
Then what we have done?
You get the number down to a point that then bow
Hopefully the bow
hunters
hunters
can come in, and then you still are gonna have to
Okay.
do maintenance on
If-
various
was that
places anyway.
The way it was written up?
Yeah.
And well, it also had looked at this, I mean, at the end of the day, what was causing the lack of it happening was that, or it was having to come out of operating,
Okay.
and that was throwing, we
Every
if
year is
we-
a problem.
Yeah, if we keep that in
Okay.
operating during budget, it just, there's no room for that type of expenditure. That said, the council, in 23, they created that fund after we got some money back from a charter settlement that took place.
Yeah, cause for 2 years we tried to do it and the answer was, well, you can't, cause we don't have it in the
We
operating.
don't have any
budget.
money,
Okay.
and
So
you
we
couldn't
did-
come into the program.
Back to, yeah, and so we did that, we got started, once we, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
You're just talking about how, like, before there wasn't a plan, I mean, it was a little bit like, I think you came in on the tail end of the internet thing, like, there
Yeah.
was
Right.
decades
Right.
of meeting after meeting and
Right.
this and that.
And
public
all kind of
safety.
task force. I
Yeah,
mean,
every task force imaginable. And then what it came down to was this is the best course of action according to practicality and science. And then it was 2 years of, well, we don't have any money because it's in the operating budget. And so then we had that windfall settlement that came in and it was like, okay, well, we can do this for 5 years. That gets this under control and that allows these guys to be able to hopefully maintain a functional level of deer where it's not ballooning out of control the way it does.
And I think that's where I was going with it, that the original intent was to get it down to 40 deer per square mile, and that was a target because realistically, even if you had a professional culling service that came in and did it like we had been, you were not gonna be able to get to 15 to 20. That was the intent, was to get to a point so we could actually say, yeah, we accomplished that goal, but it still was off from the ecological balance that's recommended by most conservation departments. That said, the whole point of it was having the 40, was having enough money over time in order to actually get it down to 20 to 15. I know that was mentioned that we initially said 40, but the whole goal was always looking at it at 15 to 20 was the recommended level.
Right.
And
I don't mean to keep this going on and we can move on with whatever we have to do. And I'm just thinking if we can look at doing something with the 1 acre or the 1 to 3 acre. If you don't want to make that recommendation now, that's fine. It's not necessarily gonna be me, but there's other council members that are gonna make the motions that I previously stated. I know that's gonna happen.
And they have a right to make that.
No, I'm just saying that,
It just takes 9 votes, so if they have 9 people who don't believe any of this, then
I don't know if it's not believing it, it's just another alternative,
well, and I think that this ties into with the reporting
Right.
requirement, not requirement, or if we could get reporting, I think to make sure that everybody's complying, I think requiring it could be something to look at. That said, if we were able to know where all this hunting occurred, that would help us in establishing we allow, whatever we allow. We track that over a year and we were able to look at the numbers that they're posting, we would be able to see, can that effectively curb the growth after we would complete a program and get it down to 40? Because then we'd actually have the data necessary to say, can this be sustained? If we can be the spearhead to knock this problem back, can they keep it back after that, after 5 years? That would help. I think that data would be very.
Just a quick, can the PowerPoint and this attachment be sent to everyone on council
Yeah.
like now, like tomorrow?
Yeah.
Way before Monday, because it's a lot to absorb. And then I don't wanna say
They
shorten
can
the
get it right
discussion.
now if they wanna come on the website.
Right, they can get it right now, but I don't even know if a lot of people don't know it's there, or they're not looking for it, or if it's just right there. Just that would help, because
Yeah.
everybody would have it ahead of
Right.
time and plenty of time.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I mean, I might suggest this, Cliff, if that,
Yeah.
if this is a direction that you wanna go. So my understanding, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to, I guess, approve this report to move to the council, right?
Yes.
So we would need to have a motion to approve the report as presented, accept the department's recommendation to move to the council or however, whatever.
Right.
But you could additionally add into that, cause they're suggesting it in here, it would be, I think, probably practically easy to do a voluntary report portal, so to speak, on the website, where if somebody's out hunting, they can capture the, put in the address or the area, whatever, and the number and kind of deer, so then we can start to get that in without going through all of the other hoops and stuff that would be necessary. And then additionally, if you think that looking at the parcel size is the right choice, that's fine. I would pretty strongly suggest that you attach to that asking those residents. Because I think that if you make that motion and make that change without talking to people, I have a sense that there's gonna perhaps be a lot of people that are pretty confused and or unhappy about that.
Okay.
So
No,
that would be my suggestion.
I'm just interested in working with somebody that's very reasonable, seems like, to work with. That could help us with some of our issues. It may not solve everything,
Yeah,
but
but the only and that's where we get back to the city thing, cause I agree.
Right.
I think, Mr. Sherman, I think you're a stand-up guy. You've done an excellent job of presenting. You've always, as Cliff said, you've always been respectful and all those things. That's wonderful. But we as a city can't run all of this through Mr. Sherman, and anybody that wants to do this can do it if we change if we make any changes that applies to everybody.
Right.
So I think what perhaps, unless, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Marshall, like, that has been the issue forever, is I think it is excellent. I've had conversations with other cities that have worked with Mr. Sherman. Everybody has said, does a great job, and I am convinced that he does.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people out there, and it would not be legal for us to say, well, these guys can do it, but nobody else can do it. And we're comfortable here, but we're not comfortable there, unless we go down the road of contracting, which then opens up an entire can of worms that we can't
no.
deal with. That's the unfortunate reality of that is why I think that this thing constantly circles back, because the answers are just not ever good. We're picking the best of a set of bad
And it
ones.
only takes one bad accident, then everybody turns angry. And we've had that over the years.
And litigious.
So anyways, that's what I got.
So Thomas, question, comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a point though, too, just given kind of the functionality of it, the recommendation in the report, but also in the slideshow. It does say, hey, the department's recommendation is to maintain the current regulatory framework, but the 0.5 did mention that a review of that minimum acreage could take place with a very important note that we should involve affected residents and ensure community input
So it's
before
already in
making
there.
changes. So that if say you approved department's recommendation as mentioned tonight, it would include that component.
So then the only additional thing you would need to add then is the self-reporting website function. Unless
Not
it's already-
not specific, there's something in here that says encourage or require harvest reporting but it doesn't have the specifics of adding it to the website. We could do that very easily though. And I think that
But would you want that in the motion, or do you feel like you
If-
understand that
if-
that's what that means?
if we have, that there's in the report and on the presentation, there's a slide for recommendations. If everyone's comfortable with that, I can share my screen again real quick.
That's right before the discussion.
Right before the discussion component. If everyone's comfortable with those bullet points, then I would be, I'll make sure that's communicated, obviously with the notes taken tonight too. So here,
I did think one of the questions I have on the voluntary stuff is I really do believe that that's gonna take a legal opinion as to, because you're not gonna force people to report it.
Mhm.
It'll just be if they wanna do it.
Right.
If they wanna do it, then we'll just know where they killed it. So it'd be like just a template would come up and it'd be like 5 questions.
Yeah, I think it would probably
time.
be like two, and I mean, to me,
They won't even know where they are. I know
that's okay.
they
I mean,
have to
they'll
have-
generally know, but to me, it's a little bit like our crash data, like we know what is being
I'm
reported.
awesome for it.
But we also know that there's a whole lot that isn't reported. So to me, getting some is better than having none. And if we could get it all, great, but we're not ever gonna be able to do that.
I think there is importance to it. I mean, cause we just never have had that data. So if you have a situation where, you know, a year goes by, it was interesting seeing the managed hunt data. I mean, if you have a situation where you have 1,000 deer killed, that's not happening. But that said, that's a big difference than we get reporting back and we know only, you know, 16, which that never would happen either, but like if you would be able to track that over time and if we see fluctuations, we'd be able to better understand like what is going on with our bow hunting population, but also sharpshooting population. I think either way, if you kill a deer in Wildwood, if there's a way, and we could do it where it's super simple on this, we could have it where it's accessible on your phone, on the city's website.
Before they killed it with their Tesla.
Yeah, yeah, that.
It ate
I
my
mean,
phone.
in theory, that could be a pretty funny submission, but I think that would be extremely helpful because it gives us a sense of what are our natural capabilities, which right now we just don't know.
I personally, I also just think it's really important to get the distance sampling data so that we don't have like huge gaps. Like right now, outside, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, outside of any one and any two, our data is like 60 years
SE1's
old.
updated from
SE1.
25
So
years.
half of our information is.
Why, and I don't understand why we would want to do any drone surveys in 1, 6 and those. Because they're hunting on those properties anyway. I mean, our goal for the drones was to try to measure.
We couldn't promote anybody that, we couldn't promote a group to hunt in those areas.
Well, right, well, they're already being hunted.
Well, no, by individuals, so we wouldn't be sending permitted people to those areas, right?
Yeah, because we don't have the permit. I mean, that, right now, and Mr. Sherman, he could go to one of these homeowners
Right.
associations with over 3 acres, talk to the homeowners,
Mhm.
do whatever they wanna do.
Right.
That's where I think that, you know, those are some of those opportunities, but reporting would really make a difference on numbers. I just don't know spending money for drone surveys in areas that are 3 acres and bigger would even be worth the investment.
Well, I mean, to me, and maybe this is the last question for you, Mr. Sherman, I hope, because it is getting late.
Like, I could wear you down.
You know, one of the conversations I've had with a couple different bow hunting folks is like, to me, we have to come up with some type of a baseline understanding of like, this is ostensibly what the deer population is. And so I was fine with the distance sampling because that's what most people recommend. Then we did the additional drone survey, which then validated that number for the most part. So I was comfortable with the number to begin with. I'm extra comfortable with it now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I mean, that seems to be sort of this bone of contention. So I don't know if you, Mr. Sherman, think that deer counts are of value, knowing the population is worthwhile, if, you know, I mean, I know that there was a request to have a drone survey that can, you know, tell us what color eyes the deer have or whatever it is. Like,
I don't wanna speak for Tom Mitchell, but from my perspective, I think that drone count was pushed so that we could validate that they over harvested those 2 areas. From my perspective as a bow hunter, and I have, you know, ways of knowing when there's deer on the property, which we have a lot of deer. There's deer all over St. Louis County. And if there's deer there and they're using the property, then, you know, my team will harvest them.
sure,
Will we harvest them all? Absolutely not, because they get smart and they move off and go somewhere else. So as a taxpayer, if, you know, you ask my opinion on spending whatever the amount is, $80,000
$80
on
grand,
a survey, I'd say we got better things to spend our money
Okay.
on. The result of success is how many deer are harvested. That's really the bottom line.
Right.
And those harvest rates will typically go down once properties are hunted, obviously, because you're reducing the herd and the deer are getting smarter and dispersing. So, and that's where hunting is a little bit more complicated and less effective than culling, when you can expand your season when they're the hungriest of the year and put a pile of corn out.
Could
I have a
we,
suggestion on the.
go ahead. I'm
The
sorry.
count gathering though,
sure.
the data gathering. So everybody held up their phone. Missouri Department of Conservation has a very good app. Every deer harvested is mandatory reporting in the state. The only problem is they only record it down to the county level. They had no problem a few years ago adding whether you hunted a deer with a crossbow or regular archery gear, question. It may be worthwhile to reach out to MDC and say, hey, if St. Louis County is selected, and you would think, you know, Aaron Shank and the biologists that work within St. Louis County would want this detailed information, then add a second drop-down menu for the townships or cities within St. Louis County. And then you know, Wildwood is there, of course, it's gonna be at the bottom because it's a W, but that makes it fall into the mandatory deer reporting process of MDC. And then you get a report from them, just like you did for.
And they would get data that they don't have currently.
No, and
too.
that-
They should love that data because there's all these questions around what's the deer population and the harvest rates within the city limits specifically. Obviously, there's a lot of unincorporated St. Louis, but
They have
Just a
to get a copy
suggestion.
of our, and point taken, and we've tried to push them on that, and they made the argument that if we do it for us, then they're gonna do it for everybody, and they can do it.
Right,
They
it's a
just-
spreadsheet
I
where
know,
they can-
I know, and it's been quite annoying, quite frankly, but that said, the thing is, they are interested in our data because they take the distance sampling surveys that we have, so it's like, help us, help you, I mean, quite frankly, have it be a two-way street.
I keep saying last question here, but
It's all right.
could we like advertise, maybe not advertise, could we communicate to our residents, if you got a deer problem on your property, here's a group that can help you.
I think you gotta advertise everybody.
Yep, you would,
That's-
you would,
yeah,
you would
I'm
have to
saying.
say.
That's the
everybody.
problem is we don't, like, if we were, this is one of these,
Post it on the website, won't do it?
well, but
On-
the
on
issue
a certain
becomes
group.
if we put
Oh,
20 people on there
I'm
and there's
sorry.
25 people, then those 5 people are gonna come back and be like, hey,
we can't say we're just,
No.
okay.
Very, yeah, I know,
That's the-
it's frustrating.
I mean, that's been the problem all along is there are people and I'm sure that you know some of these people, they love to have the people come out and do the calling or bow hunting. But the city could never get involved in it because that's not something that
Okay.
we actually
So-
can match people.
So then we can talk, we can try to, I mean, we can try to pressure MDC, we can make some phone calls and things like that. I agree, I think seeing the number of deers coming out is certainly of great importance. But I also, I mean, unless I'm understanding you incorrectly, I mean, there is still value in knowing theoretically how many we have, right? Or does that not make any difference?
I think you have as good of idea as you need that we have a lot of deer. You have past survey numbers. This is just my personal opinion.
Yeah,
You're
Well,
a
I'm
resident,
trying to
maybe
think because, you know, even with members of our of the council, we've had council members that are very convinced that there aren't any deer at their house anymore, and I keep saying to them, we were nowhere near there, so I don't know where, maybe the bow hunt, maybe you guys have done a fantastic job, I don't know.
Well, and this is where it's frustrating too with MDC because we've had some significant disease die-offs. Where I have gone out and removed a lot of deer from properties that I either hunt or I know the people. And they don't necessarily recognize that. So that's a whole different can of worms, but there are deer diseases that can easily wipe out a large portion of the
Sure.
population each year. And, you know, how that gets played into your growth and all that, year to year dependent, drought dependent, there's a lot of factors. But
That was included in
There's-
their contract as well with White Buffalo, where they had to test.
yeah, the
You know,
CWD.
so I mean, that
Yeah, but
part-
they don't, the biggest killer is EHD, not CWD. But the population, you know, in the places that I hunt that are neighboring to where you called, there's a lot less deer. I hunt right on the other side of Kerrs Mill Road in Clarkson Valley from any one. And we killed a significantly less amount of deer this year than we have in the past. And we saw a lot less deer. And we have persistent presence on properties from the time right before the season opens in September until at least January 15th. We run cellular trail cameras. So we're not just out there, you know, for a short period of time. You mentioned managed hunt, you're not allowed to run cell cams on the very department station property. So the hunters are going in blind. We use cell cameras, so we have that persistent presence, so we're there when the deer are there. So we know that area has got a lot less deer.
Well, should we?
Absolutely, yeah, you shot 300 whatever deer out of
Yeah.
there. Sure. That was the intent.
All right,
thanks.
So my question would be is if Mr. Alvarez is correct, whatever recommendation we send, somebody is gonna make a motion that we change all of our ordinances to do that.
Mhm.
I would be more than happy to make sure as we put that recommendation forward, if they wanna bring that up and they wanna make it, I just don't know how we would do it. So the next question is, if we go through with this recommendation, if we have a majority that said, hey, we've seen this, we've studied it, we think this is, where we should be. There's other opportunity we can do down the road. But I think at this point, our job was to report back, can it be?
Yeah.
And as I said that night, it has always been, but everybody's like, oh, well, we're not allowed to hunt. Yeah, you are, and we have hundreds of people hunting in Wildwood on private property of people who are the residents knowing that
Yeah, I
property.
mean, I think, I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have been doing this. My understanding of the motion was we need to return this report by this next
Feasibility.
meeting with whatever recommendation we come up with or Tom comes up with, and then whatever comes after that is the next
Yeah.
question.
That's how I kind of see it. Does that everyone else?
This is as far as we can go right now, so
Yeah.
thanks for entertaining me.
So is this acceptable as a recommendation, or do we wanna tailor or change this at all? Cause we can it's up to the committee. I just wanna make sure it's effectively getting the message across from the committee.
Point, just because it came up. Are we entertaining a change or edit or an add to the first five? Are we thinking about leaving
Oh.
5 alone and doing a number 6?
No, no, that-
For me to think about.
Yeah, right now it's just the 5 that we have, and it's asking, quite frankly, the discussion we've had, I think this actually, quite frankly, covers it. I know 5's an
It sure
important part
does.
here.
I would
Yeah.
wanna make a motion that we don't tolerate a number 6.
Yeah, I think that's everything that we've talked about, right?
That-
all right.
I mean, I think that covers.
So I can look at
majority.
this.
And it leaves a little wiggle room there, but just for a basis too, I mean, if someone makes a motion to say, we're gonna go, hey, just drop it to 1 acre, we would have to go through a whole nother process, cause we'd have to change our code, so that's gonna be going from work session to public, regular session.
So here's the question. We get ready to bring this recommendation forward and a motion then is made, well, we have to go back and change that. I would vote against that if they're going to try to override and put 1 acre in there. So that could easily fail. Based
Well-
on voting no, because they're forcing 1 acre. If they say we have to make everything at 1 acre, it would have to be a vote.
But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this. What we are voting for here would be the acceptance of this report and the acceptance of these recommendations. We're not doing any,
That's it, yeah.
outside of that, we're not doing anything. So I think if
It should be that way, but we saw that break down the last time where they allowed to make a motion on top of
that's
this.
up to the mayor and the attorney.
And
They can
and that's
figure that out.
that's where the whole thing goes haywire. And then you'll say, well, why are you voting against it? Because what you did is you jumped your motion in front of that. So I'm good with the recommendation.
I know I personally would vote against that, cause I think that that's, one, I think it's procedurally out of order, but two, I think that I would go back to number 5 here, which is if we're gonna consider that, we probably need to ask some people. But that's how the votes work. I mean, people are gonna vote the way they're gonna vote. So I mean, to me,
I just think this should be said as to me, this whole thing is, the report that's going back is, can we as a city contract with bow hunters, period?
I would say.
And
the
that's what
answer
this
is
says.
No.
Okay, if that answer is no, and I don't know that anybody, after looking at all this, as much as we might want to do that, like, I don't know that anybody could say, well, let's just ignore all this, and we can't.
They can.
Okay, so
We'll see how
then
that
that's, then let's move on, and then let's fine tune it or.
So my question then would be, Tom, for you, and I'm not trying to skew your answer. This
He
is,
doesn't work on any contract, with any contracts,
I know,
That's what I'm
but,
saying, and that's what I feel like this is just, are we gonna contract or not?
right, so
That's
my,
what
sorry,
I
that
feel like
question
we were
one.
asked to decide.
yeah, so my question would be,
After that, let's see what we can do. how
that
we can-
is, should be a recommendation. I mean, I'm not,
And number 3,
Number 3,
I might just make that number,
make that
make it
one.
number 1.
cause you never know. But also, I'm just curious, because I know we're talking about it because we think it's going to happen. But in here, number 5 is review minimum acreage requirements, evaluate potential to reduce 3 acres to 1 acre or allow parcel aggregation with community input. I think that that is a good recommendation if we are going to do that. But I am asking, are you, the way that I am reading this, you are recommending that we do that? Is that what you?
I'm recommending right now, without any like top of the hat, we should not change our code right now.
So-
But that said, what that's saying is,
So 5 should.
If we do that.
if we do that, it's kind of like a safety valve. If we do that, then I would say we probably need to send a mailer out to the residents, get some input back from the folks that are gonna be impacted.
I would just suggest that we need to find a way to say that, because right now your recommendation is to review minimum acreage requirements, and I don't, if that is your recommendation, that's fine, and I'm still happy to pass the report along.
Well, and I think that I totally agree. I guess think that down 1 through 4 is exactly what we're coming out of committee. This is like, well, here's something else more we could do, but I don't think you wanna offer more to do with the recommendation of the first 1 through 4.
Two separate.
I think, yeah, I
Make
mean,
them
I
separate.
just keep, I know this is so, I'm sure, Mr. Sherman, this is the most frustrating thing in the world for people that don't have to sit in these meetings all the time. Like, the procedural nature of the question that we were asked is those first 4 items, which is what we are supposed to return. We can
Then it goes-
have the conversation about the 5th one,
Yes.
but that's a different, it can happen immediately following if that's what needs to happen.
That is.
But that is a different question.
And that would be great wording. If they said, we think you should review it and do it, then that's what you would like to see that motion come forward
Yeah,
with.
that actually makes quite a bit of sense. So almost saying 1 through 4 and move 3 to 1, but from 1 through 4, move forward as 5, really, I mean.
I would strike 5 and you
Strike
have
5,
that
yeah.
at your, you know,
Have it in the.
because
have it
we
in
all
the
think
quiver.
that that motion is going to occur, but we don't really know. And so until you know, while that is valuable information to have, that is not what was being asked of us.
Yes, and because right now, and just as a an FYI, the department's, idea here is that, obviously with other cities doing that, it's clear that that was a conclusion that people might come to. So the idea would be, if we're gonna do that, the safeguard I wanted to really, the most important part of number 5 is actually, should involve affected residents and ensure community input is fully incorporated, because that triggers, let's go do a survey and get.
Yeah, and then I think I think you make that point, should that motion come up.
Yes,
And then, I also think if, it might be difficult, I know maybe you've done this already. My understanding in having talked to a lot of these other cities is their parcel size is that size, cause that was the biggest size that they had.
yes, that's true. The majority of the other cities, they're not as big as Wildwood, and they do not have the inventory of.
So I just, to me, like everyone, we do a job of trying to communicate to people all the time that yes, most of the city is 3 acres except for this very small part where it's not 3 acres. And so I think most people out in the world just assume everything out here is, and looking at that map, I think if you factor in the parks, 80% of the city is that.
It's around there.
So anyway, that would be my suggestion, is to
And only
probably take 5 out.
Just one other comment that I think needs to be tweaked up there front is, if you are going to do any type of a permitted regulation, you might check with the attorney.
No.
In the past, everybody, private owners, everybody will have to do that. And I think that at least the people in 6 and 1 need to realize that those people who live on these big plots, if they have somebody doing the hunting, they are gonna be required to have that hunter fill out the permit.
That's a key thing. If we wouldn't have to do that, then it.
But we don't have a choice. I don't think we have a
I'm
choice.
just,
Yeah.
you know more than I do. I'm just saying if that's a key factor to find that out for sure.
Yeah, I would, again, that to me is one of those pieces of information, like, it's good to get it in advance. Yes, sir.
Why could you not do a 1 to 3 acre regulation?
Why could we not do,
Why could you not have a separate set of regulations that just affect those people on 1 to 3 acres? So everybody that's right now outside hunting with their rifles are not affected, but it establishes more access to the deer specifically for archery. You do that with firearms today. You have portions of the city where you
Less than
can
1 to
shoot
9,
and you
yeah.
cannot. So my question would be, from the bow hunting perspective, is why could you not focus in on that 1 to 3 acres and put strict requirements around it like what the other cities do? Leave the 3+ acres alone. Then you don't upset all the people who have people coming in to hunt, the larger property owners where it's safer for firearms, muzzle loaders, whatever it is. Or if they choose bow hunting. and then just focus on the 1 to 3 acre. And I give you that because the people who call me asking for my help, 9 times out of 10 are less than 3 acres.
I would,
Wildwood?
Yes, in Wildwood.
I would say the honest answer is we don't know. That's where the attorney comes in. So it's very possible that the city attorney goes, sure, it's no big deal. It's a B permit or whatever it is. And then that's fine. And then I would say then great, then we kick it back to let's have a conversation with these 1,600 people. I am a fan of just finishing conversations, so I would advocate just have the full conversation right now, because if we go from inevitably, if we make the adjustment to 1 acre within a handful of years, we're gonna come back and go, well, we think we should now we wanna make this adjustment for whatever
Take off at any limits.
whatever reason it is. So you might as well get the information. You're paying for it already. Get it once, get it right.
Similar type thing is we can't control the height of grass. That was one, oh, you gotta keep your grass, what, 4 inches or 5 inches high, and everybody in 6 and 1 went berserk.
Right.
You know, we have to pay to mow alongside of the roads. So I mean, it's just amazing what you can't do.
Yeah.
In many cases because of the way the legislation is laid out in order to do that, so.
So I know that that's probably not a super satisfying answer, but that's just the way, like, these are the things where, you know.
No, I understand.
The attorney can give us the advice and whatever it is, and certainly it's possible that people will ignore that advice anyways. You never know how it's gonna go. So yeah.
Okay, so we
We
need a
give that
motion.
landowner an option, because the bottom line is it's the landowner's choice.
It is right
You're
now,
not-
but it's under the municipality codes for the size.
Right.
And
If
MDC.
it's authorized by the city, it's still the landowner's choice. Doesn't mean hunters can walk in
Oh,
there.
absolutely, and that's what they're gonna
That's where
tell
the
you.
written permission and those strict
Yep.
regulations come in.
All right.
Any more questions, comments?
No, that's,
All last question, comment?
so the attorney can give us that info by Monday.
We will see. One would hope.
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion. Who would like to make a motion?
How
that
do you
we-
want me to say it?
Would you like to make your motion?
Well, I think it would just be to accept the department's recommendation
That's,
with the first 4 numbers, right?
What was that?
The motion would be accept the first
the
4 items.
recommendation.
Except the
to the
first
council.
4, but I mean, quite frankly, if you guys, do we wanna modify that 4 that was talking about the permitting portion? It was saying look at it, but it honestly, with Wildwood setup, I think instead of permitting, what would be nicer would be getting just a requiring reporting, like not.
Yeah, I just think I'm gonna keep going back to this, like.
survey?
We have to answer the question that was asked with the rules that currently exist.
Yeah.
So we can make a suggestion down the road to change the rules, but
Yeah,
that's a different thing.
No, we weren't asked to do that.
Right.
The second part of it, so I kind of think we need to stick with what we were told
So-
to do.
Maybe maybe a meeting Monday, you can, you're gonna give this report, everybody's gonna have this report, but I don't know if you can preamble some of this with,
I would get it to 5 minutes or less, which should be pretty easy to do, I would think.
He's stuck.
Because like, I would say, like, I'm with Tracy, I would email this stuff out tonight.
It's good stuff.
Or whenever.
They've already had access to it, and whatever the thing was with the numbers that you said you didn't get a chance to drop in yet, or whatever.
it was we got him in, that's what I was walking, I
Okay.
think. It was the managed hunts on, the amount of deer.
So that's what I would do, and then, part of being on the council is you gotta do your homework, so if people don't read it, that's.
Well, and I think going back to your point
Can't make them
though,
read it.
about answering the question directly, I think that, 4 and 5 become trickier, and maybe it's you move 3 to 1. And then
Yes,
you move, well.
Those are the 3 things, and then the
Yeah,
other ones you
1,
have in your
2, 3.
I
pocket.
think
right?
that's the answer to the question.
That's the answer to the
Yeah,
question that was
That
posed.
doesn't mean this other stuff won't come up,
Yeah,
but if it does come up, then I think that this group as a committee can say, hey, here's some other things that we were thinking about.
Yeah.
when I send this out, they'll have all 5. They'll get this presentation as showed tonight. But that said, in the actual recommendation, with the report, would only show 1 through 3,
I would suggest,
making the.
when you
update.
send it out, because that's the motion that is, I
Yeah,
assume.
that's a
that is the
motion. We'll put
that
it
is going to
forward
be
to
made.
correct this.
And then when somebody goes, well, what happened to 4 and 5, then we can go, It's like, here's what happened to 4 and 5. They're not gone. They just, that's not part of the question. That's what so
After 2 hours and 45 minutes,
let's do this thing.
I think that's answering the question though. And I mean, I can
Agree.
go back and look at what they ask us to do. And again, yes, they've always been part of it, but I think those are the first steps that everybody else needs to weigh in on. And that answers it back and then they can kind of give us direction from there.
Yeah.
And I think that still allows people to, if they want to throw stuff out there, then we're not gonna screw up the
It's
first
just
part of
different.
everybody.
I think they're just different questions. What do I know?
Any other comments, Mr. Mabry?
I'd go with as not short and sweet, but as concise and succinct. One,
So I'm making that motion to go with this, okay? And let's move on
Go with this what?
with
Well,
what we talked
The
about.
recommendation
Well,
coming out of
I
here.
feel I was cut off, but what I
Oh.
said was 1 through 3. Because that's what's the most concise and succinct of what direction we were given. So that was my comment. So.
Are you making that a motion then?
I would not want to supersede or circumvent, Mr. Alpers. He's
No, I'm
been
saying the
really-
same thing. Once it's.
Well, we need a first and second, so we can, you guys wanna arm wrestle?
Yeah, you're gonna flip a coin?
All right.
I
So
would like to credit and assign the motion to Mr. Alpers.
you're good with the motion?
You good?
All right, so Mr. Alvarez will make the motion.
You find a second.
And second by.
In a second,
Mabry.
okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. So the motion passes. The recommendation will go on to the council for Monday's meeting. Would that be on the work session?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's not gonna be enough time.
The first work session or the second?
Second.
But I will say, Tom, a lot of great work there. It
Yeah.
really makes you stop and think. And it really shows you how helpless we are in things that seem to be so simple
Yeah.
in today's world of litigation and all those other challenges.
A lot
So
of scary stuff out.
A comment for Mr. Marshall.
Looking to sue.
I can't comprehend how patient and tolerant and nonplussed you've been through this meeting. We go through this too often, but coming in cold, can't believe you bore with it as well as you did.
Nice job.
all right. Next item, our favorite. Please.
Say take 5. Suggesting
Yeah, anybody need to go to the bathroom?
I actually would think maybe I'll go down and try to get coffee. No, I'm good. Yeah, want to take 5 minutes? Let's do that. And it gives us a chance and,
I apologize to my wife.
oh, I'm gonna have my midterm. Do that. I gotta tell you a funny story though. The other night, she said, I don't know what happened. I was upstairs on the computer and she said, I don't know what's happened. She said, I can't turn the TV off in the family room. She said, well, I was sitting here and I went and moved my arm and the remote went somewhere. I can't find it. Well, it's Samsung in that room. Well, in the bedroom, there's another thing. I said, okay, well, I went in and got her remote and I can shut it off. I said, where could it be? I looked through everything, under the floor, under everything. So I said, just go ahead and order another. So she ordered one, it's like $8. It'll be another one to come in. Cause I tried to use hers and I couldn't get it to turn on the big screen in the family room. So today I'm trying to think where I was. I was someplace and maybe this morning, and I get a text says, I found it. When she hit it like that, it went over and she had a pair of black shoes. And it went down in the left foot in the shoe. And this morning, she was getting ready to go out. She put her shoe in and said, what's in there? And that remote was stuck in the
But that
thing.
kind of stuff drives you crazy because you
So-
know it has to be there.
Look at that.
And it
How
disappears.
sweet. I'm underneath the couch. I'm turning it over. And it's like, you gotta be kidding me. And I said, so where was it? She said, the shoes I have on today.
That's hilarious.
She just put them in the closet and never put her foot in there.
But they
So,
weren't like winter shoes and she put them away and she never.
yeah, I know. But I gotta tell you, I spent a whole lot of time looking under stuff that I never planned on.
I was gonna mention to Tom aside that I think I heard that he was going to go about a level of subterfuge in insinuating what he thought was 5, but then what we turned out in the last 2 minutes to say was 4 and 5. Sort of needle that in sideways into his report, but then the final recommendation and 3.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was hearing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that to him because then that had ran him out to everyone. But if he snuck that in, peachy dandy.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of those things where like, I just think it's really hard, like, you know, I know you did this at the county level with this stuff, but like,
Oh,
it's this
God.
procedural questions things that are just like,
You think I fight people now?
oh, I can't imagine, it's just,
Shit disturber.
it just, like, the order of these things drives me crazy, and like, I just don't think that these are, they're just not really conducive for like actual conversations, like, it's hard to do this the way you're supposed to do it.
Your son's playing
It
me.
struck me at the last second. I go, the more numbers we have, the easier any one thing will either pass. It's like a landslide, like an avalanche.
Yeah.
Or we
Well,
call the Miss Six or whoever
and
they are.
I
They're
mean,
gonna
I-
be Picking and dicing, it's gonna take 4 hours.
I kind of think too, like, I mean, I'm sure Cliff's right, and somebody will make a motion or whatever it is, but like, if we can do our best to say, look, this was the question that we were asked. These are the answers to that question. There's a million other questions to answer, but this is all we were at. And then you bring these other pieces in. So like, cause I think if you add in these other things at the beginning, now you're sort of inviting your emotion
The whole
and everything.
point I get at is this flippity floppity thing where it's the city attorney to me that said that, no, it's inappropriate to be changing the motion before adding the amendments to base the vote. Because I go, what did I even just hear this guy say?
Yeah.
You can't make an amendment to the motion before you vote.
Or
Or do you think he was sitting in his car?
Could be.
No, he called out on the radio.
It's always good dude.
No, yeah.
Who's he? You mean Marshall?
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's Sherman. He said, I think we with this changing.
Well, I would hope, I've made a remark to someone who's an avid hunter.
Right.
And it was the point of,
All right, Captain Wendell, you have 35 seconds to talk.
Thank you both for being here.
I told him he could leave. He
From the
said
beginning.
he's staying for the duration, so.
Of excitement.
Should we,
How do you want to start?
all right, can we take back over, Ed?
Yeah, that's fine.
We got our motion, we got it accepted, so now we're gonna move forward with the conversation on the police services contracts and budget reductions, which is a continuation from our conversation last month. So, Tom, I don't know if you wanna take it away or we wanna.
I'll give a quick note, but at the last meeting, we had talked about how, you know, obviously we've talked about this for the last year or so about the fact that operational costs are increasing. Our revenues aren't really necessarily keeping pace, so understanding that county's also having that same issue with their expenses, that the contract is likely to be higher than typical at probably 5%. The committee last month had given direction to begin the process of working with the police department to really understand the impact if there was to be a reduction. If we didn't increase for year over year, what does that do? Kind of giving some more operational perspective. That's still underway. The idea tonight, though, was to bring Captain Mendel, who graciously offered to come in and share, but really to offer an opportunity to the council to hear from Captain Mendel directly, kind of what that impact could look like, but also ask direct questions as we kind of work through this. But officially, we'll have something come back after we work a little bit more with the St. Louis County Police Department. But that's a nice little intro, teed it up for you.
All right.
Happy to answer questions as we go through.
First and foremost, obviously, we've been a partner with Wildwood since the start, 30 years. So we are certainly interested in working through whatever we need to work through to maintain that partnership and make things happen or come up with the best plan to continue services. The amount of officers assigned to Wildwood has changed over the years. I think Ed has alluded to that. I did watch your video. You guys were kind of all over the place with stuff. So I'm gonna try and address everything that was brought up. But you hit a lot of key points and it's obvious, you know, you guys have a good idea what's happening or not happening. You know, first and foremost, yes, the county is in the same boat. probably a worse boat than Wildwood. They're looking at the same thing, that they have challenges with revenues and money coming in to take care of services they offer. Ed, you mentioned it in that other meeting that the county government has put a $5 million reduction in our police budget. Where that money is coming from is from our overtime. This being a contract, it's fully staffed. So our overtime really relates to to your events, new budget for that. So that doesn't impact us at all. That's in our other precincts where they're shorthanded. They're using overtime to fill beats. A year or so ago, about 2 years ago, we created we had a special response unit. We've kind of rebranded what they do. They're in our patrol division also. They become a mobile precinct. It's really ready manpower. So those precincts that are short, if they need a body, they have people that are scheduled on duty. You're gonna work in this precinct today, you're going to that one tomorrow. There's somebody in training or something, you go fill in there. So that's how the department has worked to try and overcome some of those challenges. Again, we don't face those challenges here. I think I have a lot I could say or will say. First and foremost, the precinct, for us should be looked at, we're the tip of the iceberg. What you see is the day-to-day operation, police officers, the uniform officers out there in the cars. But behind us or under us is an iceberg is the rest of the department. We're an accredited department. We have, policies and practices that are in place. Best practices are always looked at. We have a unit that's what they do, is they look at what's good that's going on out there and how we should have our policies in line with that. That come up in the past when something controversial happens. The powers that be start emailing and challenging, police should do this, police should do that. And, going back to 2019 or so when some of those incidents happened, these individuals out there would throw stuff at council people. Random email from someone who doesn't live here, doesn't live in the state. Their job is to provoke things. And then I'm getting phone calls, which are fine, saying, hey, do you have a policy on this? Do you have a policy on? Well, absolutely we do. Our policies are online. You can look at anything you want. If there's something that needs to be adjusted, we do that again based on best practices and what's legal and what's right. So we have a board of police commissioners that oversees our operations. They are civilian members that basically the chief of police answers to the police board. One of them happens to live in Wildwood, so there's a connection there. Another thing we're looking at is workloads study. We do this periodically anyway. And that's something I did probably 2 years ago when we reduced our manpower. We started the contract on 8-hour shifts and it was staffed that way. The department moved to 10-hour shifts, and pretty much the national trend is 12-hour shifts. So the guys get half. We do a 2-week pay period, so half the days are working and half the days are not. So we're set up in 4 squads. There's 2-day squads. So when one of them is off, the other one is filling on days, and same thing for the night shift. So as far as precinct operations, I kind of have two groups, almost 3, 2 groups. So there's the patrol group. That's the guys that are answering radio calls 24 hours a day. And then we have our neighborhood policing group. That's comprised of 2 traffic officers, 2 park officers, and 2 neighborhood policing officers. and our clerk at the front desk. Kind of a third group, they're counted in the neighborhood policing group, but they are our school resource officers that are, so totally separate contract from the precinct contract. They're assigned to us, assigned to me. They answer to us in our structure here. They're my bodies basically. But they answer to Rockwood School District on that contract. So I'm the liaison there, obviously, for their issues, our issues here. In the summertime, those officers are not assigned to school, obviously. So I generally get to keep them. You do not pay for them. So there's kind of a list of things, based on our long-term relationship that we do a lot. You get a lot that you don't pay for. It's not spelled out. And that's one of the items. It's kind of free manpower. It helps me that I get to keep them because other people are on vacation. So I got these bodies that can fill in. The department could certainly, and I can't really oppose it, say, you know what, we need those 4 guys to work in the North County precinct. And that's where they would go. They wouldn't like it, but
It was your idea.
they would go. So, you've mentioned that your city staff is small. We fill in a lot of gaps, with that. After hour stuff, we're here 24 hours a day. So if the carpet cleaner needs to get let in at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, we're already here. We open the door, we get them in, we take care of that for you. So if you had your own police department, that would happen anyway. So, I think we fill in there. We've had a great rapport and relationship that whatever you guys need, we go above and beyond to make sure that happens. There was a lot of deer talk. I came here in 2018, and this was already in motion for 5 years prior to me getting here. So I've watched this develop. A lot of discussion has been had. A lot of committees have this has been beaten up and beaten up and beaten up, and you kind of change faces and people, and you keep going down the same road. So at a point a couple of years ago when the staff came to, here's the plan. It's like, hallelujah. You have an answer and a direction, and I think it was going very well. So unfortunately, it's back in your hands to think about it some more. So from that, our department was involved with it quite a bit. We did a lot of the research. We've always done the deer counts. Sergeant Wendling was the expert. He's still a phone call away. Our planning section did a lot of the data crunching. They wrote the survey that was sent out to the residents several years ago. So we did some work for you behind the scenes. Again, that's not a separate bill that, hey, we did this or that. It comes with the department. So I think we did a lot to get to where you need to be as far as making decisions. So just examples. Talked about Prop P. So the Prop P money, I don't know all the background of it. I inherited that when I walked in the door. That was all voted and decided. There was a plan developed by the previous captain on what to do, how to improve our services. And the result of that was, with the Prop P funds, we're going to add 2 sergeants and 6 police officers. The 6 police officers was the staffing factor to add a beat. So we had worked with 4 beats, the size of Wildwood, as you know, is the same size as the city of St. Louis. Have another car out there certainly, would be beneficial. So that was a determining factor for the number of officers. The supervisors, Wildwood did not have enough supervisors for 24-hour supervision. I worked in the West County precinct, which is the next door neighbor. And many times I was sent to Wildwood in the middle of the night because something happened and there's no supervisor working. I had to fill in. I called myself the West Region Commander because I had Valley Park, Clinton, Wildwood, and the unincorporated area of West County. So I was the boss of a huge area and didn't know half the guys working out here, or where I'm driving to in the middle of the night. So it worked out fine. You know, my job was to ensure policies are followed, that, you know, we handle incidents correctly. And it didn't happen a lot, but it did happen. So having your own in-house supervisors is important, that they're familiar, they know what's going on. The officers have somebody on hand to answer questions or give them guidance if needed. So that was the Prop P funds and how they were played out. And again, that was you know, city administrator and the police staff you know, came to that conclusion on how they were going to spend those funds. The residual money that usually comes up is used for some minor equipment stuff that, you know, is still owned by the city. We have access to it. We have use of it. A couple examples, pretty much daily, we use radar equipment for doing speed surveys, collecting traffic data, that type of thing. Speed display signs for speed feedback. That's all good. It's tools that we can use to you know, let us know how we can you know, deploy our officers. As I mentioned, enjoy a low crime rate. I think we're pretty good at addressing you know, citizen concerns. They may not always agree with how the police assess something, but we're kind of disinterested as far as we're in the middle. You said this happened, you said this happened, we mediate that. What tends to happen occasionally is when you guys get the email that they're trying to convince you they want something done. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that it rarely happens that a council person will contact us and say, hey, you should have handled it this way. Because there's always two sides to the story. And that's generally what happens is you get their side and they want to convince you to take their side and make their point. So, you know, it's important that the officers have their discretion in handling calls. They do it right. I was going to bring in as a prop our books of general orders and procedures and manuals. Unfortunately, our books are outdated because there's so much there. It's all online, so that's where we look our stuff up at this point. Beyond our day-to-day operations, as I mentioned, events. So you roughly have about 25 events that we staff. The staff that I currently have, we pretty much can handle everything that comes our way. And I think it's been proven. Very proud of the fact that when we had the tornado a year or so ago, we had 5 officers on, and I don't remember if there were 2 supervisors or 1 working that particular night. They handled everything on their own without us calling in other resources from one of the other precincts or from our special operations division. And at, you know, 9, 10 o'clock at night, yeah, we can call up backup for that. It's going to take a while to mobilize people to come. What we didn't know, and I was with Rick that night, was what happened beyond where we're at in Wildwood, that there were far worse things that were happening, and we probably wouldn't have got those resources. We just didn't know it. So, you know, it's running call to call, handling these little assignments, and then moving on to the next thing. They kept pace with it. And really by, you know, 10 or 11 o'clock that night, everything was pretty much handled. There's nothing else we can do. If a road was blocked by trees, you know, Rick had your contractor on the way to deal with it. If there were power lines down, that was just gonna stay that way until Ameren could get out and do something about it. So, you know, as far as staffing, I think we're in good shape. Can we make some changes? Absolutely. I was gonna go over pretty much the whole department and tell you, you know, what I have behind me. I'll kind of do it briefly. We have a public information office that handles press releases. So if there is a major event, we have people that deal with that. It's not on Tom to figure something out or, you know, get whoever you have to do your normal stuff.
Or the mayor to explain how somebody got shot.
If somebody gets shot, it happened, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good example. You know, we've had a couple serious incidents. It's handled by our patrol officers initially, but we end up with 10 or 12 detectives that are involved in this that roll in and take it over and take on, you know, all the challenges that come with that. The department has, you know, 60+ contracts with multiple municipalities. Some are full service contracts. I already mentioned we have, you know, Blackjack and Jennings and Valley Park and what else over there? Twin Oaks, Fenton. A lot of the smaller municipalities will contract with us just for patrol functions, which is like Kinlock. They do, you know, so many patrols during a shift or during a day. That's how they pay their contract. But they don't have all the other resources that are here in hand for you. We have an internal affairs section. So complaints generally are not happening here as far as us handling them. We'll do some preliminary work on it, but it's out of my hands. So, you know, we're not trying to talk anyone out of a problem. If they think an officer's done something that they shouldn't do, there's a mechanism for that to be investigated. And it happens out of the chief's office in headquarters. So I mentioned our analysis unit. A lot of our research data, number crunching, they do it. There's a staff that they research policy, they write policy, they do a lot of our number crunching for us. As far as patrol, we have 8 precincts and our transit division, our transit bureau, which is Metrolink basically. We pretty much support each other. So if I have a major incident, you know, that I need staffing, you know, we're neighbored with the West County precinct, so I can borrow people from them, provided that they have people available to send me. You know, the only time we're gonna be really taxed is if there's some kind of a major weather event, like I said, with a tornado that, you know, rips through the metro area. Then everybody's got to figure out what they're gonna do and how we're gonna help each other to get through it. So we have investigation divisions. They handle robberies, homicides, child abuse, domestic assaults, special investigations related to like human trafficking, computer type crimes, our property crimes bureau, frauds, burglaries, arson, auto theft. Criminal identification bureau is our crime lab, crime scene unit, fingerprint section, warrant section, property control. They handle all our evidence. So we're talking, you know, hundreds of people basically behind the scenes that we have at our disposal for support. Our special operations division, you mentioned the helicopter. We don't get to call for the helicopter. It's, if I need a helicopter, we get the helicopter. Problem properties unit, K-9 unit, our highway safety unit, commercial vehicle inspection unit. We have a detail that's the police force basically for Spirit Airport. That's a county police group, even though it's in Chesterfield, there's a county police contingent down there. And our crisis intervention team, which handles mental health cases. We have quite a few of those that happen here in Wildwood. We do the initial work on it, then it's turned over to them for follow-up. Referral for services, that type of stuff. And that unit is grant funded a lot. And there's actually, I believe, an Ellisville police officer that's now detached to that unit, you know, assisting countywide. So, you know, those partnerships exist all over the place. Emergency management, they gave a presentation a few weeks ago. They handle the warning sirens, event planning, disaster response, disaster resources. The night of the tornado, our emergency management office was up and running, and I was in communication with them. once that door is open, Rick and I stumbled across county transportation dump truck and crew clearing a road, a side road in Wildwood, and I'm like, who is this? Why are you here? You know, we've never seen this. This is not a county road, so they were sent out to deal with it. They came out and dealt with it. So that meant, you know, bringing out a front loader and getting some large trees because this particular subdivision was totally blocked off. So you know, that partnership and that support extends beyond just us. Record sections, reporting, they handle all our sunshine requests. So you can't show up at our window and say, I need a copy of a police report. You can go online, you handle it that way. That group screens for what should or should not be released based on sunshine law. So then our personnel section handles our hiring. You know, another advantage of the contract is if someone is promoted or if someone leaves the department, someone retires, instead of me having to find someone and hire them, I basically tell my boss and he transfers something and we just had a good example. Officer Adrian Washington got promoted recently and was transferred to another precinct, which is pretty much typically how we do that. And the day he leaves, there's a new officer walking in the door to fill the slot. So no downtime for us there. Let's see. You asked about beats. There are 5 beats. They really have nothing to do with your wards because your wards, you know, change based on population. Our beats are assessed by our calls for service. And that's going to relate pretty closely to population. So if you got a lot of people here, there's a lot of people calling the police here. If you have very few people out here, we rarely get calls out in the rural areas, like you said. So of those 5 beats, 3 of them kind of come together here in town center so that if something happens here, one of those cars is close by. The far western side of the precinct is more rural, more forested. That's one car handles a lot of that area or covers that area. And then obviously if one car's out of service on something, the CAD system recommends who's the next one to handle it and fill in. We assess that every couple of years. Our beat maps were made in 2019, the most recent one, but we've looked at that in 22. And we haven't had any huge development or population increases where that would need to be adjusted at this point. So it'll be looked at, you know, again in the near future. Cost per officer is about $139,000. And what that is salary, benefits. I haven't gotten a breakdown of what that totally is, but the use of a vehicle is in there. You know, I found old documents on the contract when they said, you know, Wildwood will pay for 9 cars. So the 9 vehicles, that's what they got. Now, we're in a position now that we know everybody has to have a car that's here working. Our collective bargaining agreements have put us in a situation where all supervisors have a car assigned to them. So the department obviously has to provide those to them. So we have a good fleet of vehicles, but I can say at any time, we probably have 2 that are out of service for whatever reason. Whether it's an accident, engine problem, catalytic converters. We found that side note, we got some new cars in 2021 maybe that were basically something with Ford Explorers was a problem. And we've had an engine blow up for really no reason. We're dealing with a couple of them now that are down for, they knew this existed, they didn't recall, and it's a gamble of, is your car one of them? And we have a handful of them here and there. So we have those other vehicles. There's about a fleet of 12 vehicles that are our pool vehicles here. with two of those being down, or if somebody's at court, we know that our beat cars have vehicles at their disposal to handle what we need to handle. Gonna talk about deer program, already did. I will add that we occasionally hit deer with our police cars, and it is not cheap. And there's an example of, if it's got $5,000 of damage, it's gonna go sit in the shop for however long it takes for them to fix it and get parts and do whatever. So something simple, you'd think a simple deer accident where you didn't total it, but it causes some damage, you know, we can miss a car for a month or better without, you know, having those wheels.
So I think, let me interject just a little bit, because I do think
I think I'm done, actually, but.
Oh, good.
So,
I just wanted to say, and I know we said this before, and I want to say it again, and I know we've talked about this outside of the meeting too, like the work that you guys do for us is tremendous, and we are very appreciative of everything that you guys do. It has been a very, I think, valuable and fruitful partnership since the city started this arrangement, probably back when we started. So I think that there is no real doubt, and I don't even think there's a minimal consideration really about, you know, trying to figure out a different police entity to work with in this capacity. I think the biggest part of it is, as we said at the beginning, you know, the county is certainly going through some financial issues. I've heard through some other folks that, you know, there are other police departments that they're a little bit unsure how some of these other statewide taxing things are gonna start affecting things. So there's a lot of flux that is happening.
absolutely.
And so I think it's reassuring to hear that, you know, as these things come and go, the city and the county police are going to do the very best to try to work together on this stuff. So, you know, obviously costs go up, they go up on everything that we do. And I think the most important thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, is that, you know, there certainly might be a point where we have to say, hey, this is how much money we have, and so we need to make some adjustments.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing to hear that we can make those to the best of our ability. Does anybody have any specific questions? I know we talked a lot about this last month, and obviously we've got Captain Mundell here. Does anybody have anything in particular they wanna ask or any of that? Yes, sir, Mr. Marshall.
I guess my question would be, and this is just as much of a city project, because we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. Technology and the computer improvement, stuff like that. I know it takes you forever to get the reporting. For all the money and the people they're trying to cut, is anybody talking about moving forward with faster technology, that the reporting is coming out quicker? I mean, we look at it as a city, we keep, it's very expensive having humans, you know, and yet we still have limited amounts of data. And so as we look at what we're gonna do in the future, are there any things from a technology standpoint that we can do as a city that would improve what you all are doing? Or are the county and the police department doing anything? I know they're cutting jobs and all that kind of stuff, but is there any way they're going to try? I think the biggest thing we can do for our residents is to communicate how great of a job you guys are doing. And unfortunately, they never see that.
Right.
And so part of that is, how can we get reports back to let the people know? I just think that that's one of the opportunities we both have, is how do we let people know? Because the stuff that you shared with tonight, for at least this old guy, I remember most of those things happening. The problem is, you sit down in a council meeting, suddenly make a motion that we outsource this to Chesterfield or to Eureka because they heard it's less money, and you get people voting for stuff and they don't have a clue.
Yep.
And so I think part of what we have to do is to really get a better understanding of, and I think that the write-ups and I'd love to see you on TV doing yours. But I think that,
He had to do it last time, so.
all right.
You guys both did a great job.
Congratulations. But I think it's so important that we get it out there to the people, because I just know when you do homeowners association meetings, they really do value it, but in many cases, they don't have a clue of what all's being done. So whether that's us with our technology or you all with your technology, just like to see if somebody's got a plan from a year or two from now to where we can start saying, okay, through technology, we have fewer people involved in it, or we get it faster, or we're communicating it better. So that was one.
Technology, we've jumped ahead quite a bit with technology. Every officer has a laptop, and it used to be it was assigned to the car, and then they moved forward that everybody really needs to have their own. So every officer has their own piece of equipment. But that came with a price too. So initially, we created a reporting system, police report system, where you called in, you dictated your report, they'd ask you the questions, they'd fill in the blanks for you, and they'd print it off, and there you go. You don't have to handwrite or type up your own report. Well, that kept transitioning. A lot of that data entry now is on the cop. We call it a care unit, computer-aided report entry. That was our invention. We have in-house IT section that built that over the past, 30 plus years, and is now being used countywide, really. So as far as data, when I do that data report, I call our planning section. I say, hey, I need this, and there's only like 1 or 2 municipalities that don't use it, so they have to go through a different database at the state level to find their crime stats. But we have everything to report back, and it's all public information, obviously. So technology has moved us forward, but there's so much stuff at your fingertips now that mapping and just available data to do stuff and to find out crime stuff. And we've had different programs. That there's one in our North Precinct, Shot Spotter, which may or may not be controversial to some. There's a price tag attached to that. It would not be of any value in Wildwood.
We could figure out where deer hunting's happening.
Bow hunters.
Well, this is true. But it obviously,
Yeah.
Basically it's a microphone system that reports back that, within seconds that, hey, here's multiple shots, and it actually records them so the officer can get on his laptop and say, this just clued up. They can hear the shots and say, that's an assault rifle. There was 25 shots from an assault rifle, and that's where we're heading to. And we discover, several homicides pretty regularly, just based on that. Nobody's calling 911.
Right.
That system is telling us, and we're able to intervene. And sometimes, we're getting there quick enough that this is the only car leaving really fast. So they're probably involved in whatever just happened. So, yes, the technology is there. Are you talking like social media stuff or?
I guess the bigger issue is we're all looking at how do we get things faster and how do we look at doing it with fewer people, because everybody's got turnover issues. Are there any short-term plans from the police standpoint? Because we're gonna be talking tonight about all the additional money we have to spend on technology.
Right.
And we still don't have any more revenue coming in.
Right.
So the challenge then is, do we pay technology up to the point that the federal government says you have to do this in order to do this? I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I know that with all the stuff that's going on, and I know the big election coming up, that will probably change some of it, but it just seems that somebody's got to have a big plan for that.
Yeah, it's certainly there, and we are, looking at, we got people doing that. I'm not doing it, but, there's staff that certainly looks at how can we streamline stuff. I'm not a big fan of it myself, but, you call 911, we just, went to a text to 911 system. So it gets the information in there into queue faster sometimes, or if the person, can't be on the phone, having a conversation, that we're still getting what we need to get, officers on the way to handle stuff. Press 1 for this, press 2 for this, say what you want, I certainly like when somebody answers the phone, you can have a
Yeah.
conversation, but when you have a big event like a tornado, and everybody's calling, or there's an accident on the highway, and who's got a cell phone?
Right.
Everybody's got a cell phone, so everybody's calling it in. They get inundated with 25 calls. Well, people get angry because, hey, they didn't answer my call, so they hang up. If you drop out of queue and then you recall, you don't get back where you were. You go back to the end of the line and you start in. So the good thing is a lot of people call stuff in, and we're on it by the time we get to you.
One last question then.
Yep.
So as we were building to get to the different beats and the coverage on it, we used to, on certain days, either Mondays, low accident days, we didn't have people 24 hours, 7 days a week, and we had to manage backwards. God forbid something happens, but
Right.
do you have a plan in mind that if suddenly we don't have those resources as to how you would step that back the way, I mean, I remember we hired back, we did the COP grant.
Mhm.
And I think we hired 3 officers. We had to keep them for 5 years. So I mean, that was $70,000 a year, but it made the difference for us to be able to do that.
Right.
So if you had to back it down, and you don't have to share that with us tonight, but I guess that would just be another one of those issues that here's some potential things that we could do to bring it down if we needed to.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And Lieutenant and I have already had some conversation. I want to back up to costs as far as, cost for officer. Tom did a good job, looking around. The industry is what the industry is. You're gonna find that most police officers were kind of in the median range, I think, maybe a little higher than the median. But if you had a casino perhaps in Wildwood, that you'd be flush with money, right? So those agencies that have that extra revenue, certainly benefit from it. But again, we're kind of all in the same boat, same training. Everybody's trying to be competitive as far as salaries, so what we are charging, in our contract is not for a profit. I don't want any misconception that, hey, the county's having a financial issue, so we're just gonna, extra bill or overcharge our clients and get them to pay. It's not. Our contract has always been with the idea to break even. We don't break even, I guarantee we pretty much have a loss every time, historically.
Are we the largest police contract?
I'm sorry?
Is Wildwood the largest police contract in the county?
Yes. As far as, yes. Jennings is, I think about 10 officers short or 10 officers less than us. Fenton, I want to say might be 15 plus fewer than we have. Metrolink even is only about 25 officers, so.
I think you guys do a great job. I think those are the kind of things that we need to be prepared as we try to get into the budgets to keep accidents from happening. Where people say, oh, we'll just eliminate this or eliminate it. No, we need to really think through it and come up with different ways. So
You basically need to tell me, someone needs to tell me, this is what needs to happen. And, you spoke about our yes, you have the contract and then there's the cost sheet. The cost sheet was developed over years of streamlining this so that you're not saying, hey, you can only have 6 cars. And this year we need to cut, you're only getting 5 cars. So try to work through that. So it was maybe too specific, and, through just development of how to improve it and streamline it so that it's more or less the same for anyone, that's contracting with us. It's based on, you want a body, this is what it costs to supply the body. Supervision is rolled into there, like I said, vehicle, some of the investigative support, that's figured into that total number for that officer. So, like Tom and I have had a brief conversation. We have not gone into any deep detail about what the expectation is. I need you to tell me, or someone at some point to say, this is what we want to do. You kicked around a number of $1 million. That's a lot. The only way I can cut budget is people. And it's really all it is. I can't say that we're not going to buy 2 new cars this year or something like that. That's a drop in the bucket. You mentioned about buying cars. We just put a brand new car in service today. It has 150 miles on it. And rolled up in the glove box was the sticker, which I was surprised. Usually they toss that when they start outfitting the car. So for a Ford Explorer police package vehicle, the sticker price was $50,000. Now, I don't think we paid $50,000 because they're state contracts where that's bid out. we probably pay closer to $35,000 or $40,000. But that was eye-opening to me because I remember in the past, dealing with other units that I was involved in, we'd get grant money, you can buy a car, an Impala at the time cost $23,000 and a Crown Victoria was like $28,000. So what are you gonna get? I can get more Impalas than Crown Victorias. But you really have to double the price of the car because, yeah, you bought the car and it's just the car. You're gonna put decals on it. You're gonna put a light bar on it. That's about $2,000. A siren system, a radio system's about $5,000. A laptop computer that went in the car was about $5,000. A radar system was about $2,000. So it quickly starts adding up that it's double the price. So I'd gotten grant money and we said, okay, here's the bill from the state, $60,000. And they're like, what kind of car are you getting? There's no car that costs $60,000. I said, you're right. It's a police car, but you got to put all this stuff in it to make it a police car. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. So that's what they paid us. So, Mr. Farmer, I know you mentioned traffic and deer problems. I don't really want to be involved in the deer.
I don't wanna be involved with deer problems.
So,
I've hit one before. so-
we're talking about cutting a significant number of staff, but then coming up with how the police department's gonna take on some responsibility. It's counterintuitive that we're gonna get included in trying to manage that.
I think it's good that you say that because I do think it is important and Ed brought it up that, you know, a lot of times council members, and I'm probably guilty of this myself, like think they've got a great idea and they're like, let's just you guys handle the deer thing.
Right.
Also, not that we're doing this, but we're gonna cut $1 million out of your budget, so fix both of those things
Right.
for us. I think it's important to let our residents know and our council members know and everybody that like the work that, you know, I would assume, I could be wrong, that if you guys wrote 1 million tickets a year, some residents would think we still don't write enough. Other residents would think that we write way too many.
Right.
So I know that you guys are very often put in, you know, it's just a lose-lose deal and it is what it is. So I appreciate you coming in tonight and giving details on that. I think it's important for people to realize what that money goes towards. I think it's also important to realize and be open and honest before it becomes a real problem that, you know, we are aware the county has an issue and now there's a state thing that might affect everybody that we
Yeah.
don't know how that's gonna work. And we have our own budgetary, you know, pressures that we're feeling. I think one question I had is, and you know, we have our new multifamily building that is coming online here shortly. We've got the reserve that's getting built out, so there's gonna kind of rapidly be a significantly larger amount of people around. I would just think it would be great if you might say that you guys are aware of that and are making adjustments accordingly, if that is in case the truth.
Well, absolutely. I don't know, how long before that subdivision exists, right? And how many people are gonna move in there? How many people are gonna move in there with kids? It was the same thing you guys talked about with, hey, we're gonna build these apartments over here and they're gonna be X number of kids. Well, how do you know that? You're just guessing on averaging that there's gonna be families moving in there and there should be 2.5 kids, per household or whatever. The reality is, we don't know, if it's these are higher priced homes, so are there gonna be families? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Are these gonna be retired people? Are these gonna be, a multi-member family? I don't know. It's trying to predict what could possibly happen.
I think the idea is, that's exactly my point, is like, until it happens, you don't really know what's going on. But I think it's important for our residents to understand that when it does occur, that is something that you guys take into account, and it isn't always just business as usual. Like, I assume, I could be wrong, that when, I'm old enough to remember before Brightleaf came in, it was just a big field. I
Right.
imagine you guys didn't patrol very much over there.
Not much to do.
Now, you do.
But even there, that's a good example. There's not a lot of calls that happen in there, and, you know, I don't know the makeup of the residents that are in there. Are they older people that, you know, take care of themselves? Are they elderly people that our calls will end up being, you know, our number one call is like a medical assist call. You know, we're responding with the fire department or ambulances. Burglar alarms, those are up there. The majority of burglar alarms are usually false alarms. So do you need, you know, if we get a burglar alarm, we send one guy, you know, other departments send two guys on the chance that, and maybe we're looking at it wrong, that this is a burglary in progress. We're gonna catch somebody in the house, when generally, no, it's not. They left the door open, the dog knocked over the vase in the house and set off the alarm.
And you were the 8th call.
Yeah.
After.
So-
Call the police.
Yeah, unpredictable. Yes, we'd keep an eye on that. I know I was asked, you know, if this is gonna be rental property, you know, up the street here, if that ever were to be developed in that fashion, you know, how would that influence our calls? Well, I don't know.
Until they have.
It only takes the one bad neighbor that you don't wanna have that either gets the police called on them or they're dysfunctional and they have to have a lot of police intervention, or that never happens and we never have calls. Bright Leaf is perfect. We rarely have calls in there.
I get several calls from them, but don't worry about it.
All right, does anybody have anything else for the captain? Okay,
Just
Yep.
as a captain, I think I already said it. What are you looking for? You know, we can certainly downsize in different manners, but you gotta keep that in mind. If I got fewer guys out there
yeah, it's less
and something
stuff.
happens, it's gonna look different. And I had that conversation with the mayor just when we were reducing by 2 people. He's like, are we gonna see a difference? Well, no, yes, because everybody loves Steve DeGelder. You're gonna see a difference because Steve's gone. So, but as far as what we do and how we do it, that hasn't changed.
So maybe then one good question, and you don't have to have an exact answer on this, but I know we've talked over the last year that, you know, we wanna try to have, if we need to make adjustments and things to the budget, no matter what no matter what it is for, we wanna try to do that before December.
Absolutely.
So from the police perspective, and like I said, I doubt that that's a thing that we're probably gonna do, but you know, we have a new group of people or whatever it is. When is a good time for Tom and to cut, like for Tom to come to us for advice on what we think he needs to do and then come to you to be able to start having these conversations where it's not scrambling behind the scenes?
Right. And that was kind of unfair, you know, and that's partially what led to how we changed things at the end of last year. That this is the end of the year and it's like, hey, guess what? You know, that in my eyes, that wasn't fair. So I went to bat for that and, you know, the chief agreed that this is how we should do this. If we're gonna have this conversation, we need to, when everybody's ready to look at the big picture, you know, far in advance. So, you know, certainly before, you know, we get too far into the summer, because there will probably need to be an amendment to the contract. But that's a simple thing, I think. You know, it's more that what's the number, because, you know, I know the Prop P funds, I don't understand how you apply them. That's gonna figure into it. So if you wanna save this, there will be some increase that we know. So if we reduce it, there's gonna be some increase. So who's doing the math? That's the question for the guy at headquarters. We say, this is what it is. And he's the contract guy. He's not a police officer. That's why, you know, my boss said, this is me. This is, you know, you're in charge of the precinct. You need to be the one in there, you know, having this discussion. And then, you know, I go back through them, through the chief, and then he's gonna do the paperwork. This is what you want. And this is how it's gonna look, you know, when we finish.
And I
up.
know that you might not even be on this committee, but I believe this committee should have a budget finalized sometime like early September.
Yeah.
As we start putting stuff into our budget, because this is one, it's very difficult, but once it's done, there shouldn't be a lot of discussion if we do it right. So that would be, you know, from the summertime and then to look at when should we start narrowing down and taking pieces of that budget.
So I don't know though, I don't know that any of us will be here, so we don't, this isn't really up to us, but I guess, you know, probably the July timeframe
Yeah.
is ideal.
We don't need to put a date on it, it's, you know, how you're progressing naturally, I think. Just like you said, so that we're not all in a crunch at the end of the year, so, oh, we gotta amend these contracts. Because for us to amend it, you know, it has to go to the county counselor's office and they, you know, adjust it or whatever, and it's approved on that side to get it back and forth between the two entities, so.
Alright, well, then hopefully we'll know what we need to do in July.
We'll come back. Kevin will talk.
Alright,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything
My
else?
pleasure.
You don't need any action, right, tonight? on that?
No, this is
Okay.
information item tonight.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate all you guys are doing for us. All right.
I'm not making the motion on the deer, man. It's not me, okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me ask this question, guys, because it's starting to get a little bit late. Not that I necessarily want to cut some things off, but we got a handful of items left. Is there any that are more important than others? I see
Yeah.
Destin is here, and so I'm assuming that we want to do the GIS thing.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we can't get through this very quickly. I don't know.
All
but-
the video gambling item is like these other ones are informational. I mean, just the one thing we did wanna, municipal management software would be pretty quick. The recommendation is that we,
Don't do anything.
yeah, cause we're gonna show you what we've been doing and it's working okay. It's not perfect, but it's better than spending $800,000.
Great. That was a great presentation. Well done.
Yeah, okay, so I guess, I mean, I would say this, if I had to make my pick of the litter, I'd say let Destin give his
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the next thing, right? The master
Demonstration.
asset
Do you
map.
still wanna do it, Dustin?
Thomas can. We didn't grow because he can on the agenda, so.
No, I can do it. That's fine.
Before I say anything, Dustin did not come prepared to present you anything tonight.
Oh, that's okay.
So just be aware of that. He has been with us for 2 years.
Yeah, August will be 2 years.
So he's been making great strides with GIS. He has a bachelor's degree from Ohio State in GIS.
Okay, huh?
Ohio.
Yeah, and I don't know that, I mean, unless somebody really wants to, I've seen some of the stuff you guys are doing. I think it's great. I mean, if you want to show us some stuff, cool. If you have.
Totally up to you.
If you have some things that you need advice or our direction on, certainly we can help you with that. But I think the stuff you guys have been doing is really good. So,
well, and the reason why we wanted to show the progress too, first and foremost, but also we wanted to tie it in because I wanted to make sure that we didn't just, with the MMS, the municipal management software, we didn't just say, oh, well, it didn't get a good price, so we're not trying anything. We have been. It's more so, there's like almost 2 features that Dustin's been doing a really good job at with the GIS. I mean, he's been first and foremost cataloging all of our assets in a way that we just did not have before, which gives a great, and eventually we'll have this, I think, in a way that can be shared publicly to show the residents, here's how much stuff we maintain on a day-to-day basis. And I hope that helps illustrate to them that it's not, tough decisions. Like, that's the reason why the hot dogs can't go, because we have to make sure
are the hot dogs on the map?
hot dogs, they're not on the map. We could put them on there.
Everybody who ever ate one.
Yeah. But that said,
City.
it would be something that they can see, kind of the, government in a geospatial way. The other thing is, we do have the ability to trickle MICA reports through GIS to then highlight resident complaints, and eventually, we're still tweaking it, but we'd like to have a system where residents could see that there's a little traffic cone near the issue where they report it. So it would be able to clearly see, not even from a MyGov perspective, that's great too, but then they would also be able to know like, oh, they physically have this on this map, and then it usually shows when we have, what contractor we have assigned to it and when we're gonna be out there fixing it. Then once it's done, there's the ability to add pictures. It's pretty impressive.
I would just,
I could do a quick demo. I used to do this all the time in my
Sure.
last job, so.
You guys share your screen though.
Yeah, do you able to add me as a panelist?
Yep, are you in?
Probably under attendees.
No, I came here from Columbus. I'm really close. Did you?
Alright.
And I went to Sypology. What do you call it? In Montgomery.
So. Raise out in stores.
Might need to become the host.
You think so?
So the guy.
If you wanna share, I think
I got something. I'm sure if you think which coach it was.
No, I got to share on it.
you do.
The guy, we took those trays and left them flat. And it's autographed by both coaches.
Pretty cool.
I had one of 4 buses, but I have about, I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen of the trays and materials.
All right.
What we're looking at here. If you guys have ever been to county's website, they have a ArcGIS experience, and that's how they show all the parcel information if you were on counties. There was a few minor local complaints about it, so I just made our own, just so you wouldn't have to keep going to counties. Differences on mine, every Zoom tries to give you a little bit of different information. So like, from further out, all the blobs outside of the Wildwood border are parks. I figure if you live in Wildwood, every park within 50 miles is still, or 25 miles is still your park. So I just added all those in there. As you can see, I got wards, the town center and the city border. As you zoom in, point of interest show up. This one's I'm still building, so I have like school locations, the police station, fountains, our salt points where we store our salt for winter, restrooms, park benches. I'm working on getting everything in there, working with Chris over in Parks.
Some of the stuff though, real quick note, like bridges, we're not gonna be able to know
Publicly.
publicly.
That
We
makes
have,
sense.
we have them internally. though.
That's good.
Yeah,
Just wanted to note that this could be something that's consumed by the public. That said, we're taking close action to make sure that we're protecting the information that needs to be protected. Sorry, yes.
No, you're fine. So the more you zoom in, if you see the roads are of different colors, that's to classify them to what's an arterial, what's a major collector, minor collector, or local road. This helps with like prioritizing the streets for snow removal or how it's written in our master plan. If we go in again, we have so I have St. Louis County's parcel data coming in here. Prior to me coming on, we paid for like 4 different copies of the same data on our online version. Now we don't pay for any of them because I just live connect to everything in St. Louis County. On that note, if you go and since we're in the northwest corner of St. Louis County, if you come over here, the cayenne blue is St. Charles's data, the orange is St. Louis County's data, and the yellow is Franklin County's data. So I just pulled them all in, so you don't have to go to 3 different websites to see the same data.
Great. Yep.
Hey, are you able to count the deer with this thing?
No, I can't count deer with this, but I can have some summary information. And then I
If we
think
had-
that's.
Hold on real quick. If we had them report their location and who did it, we would be able to put every kill on this map. It would be nice. That's why.
We just have the deer areas in there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone and any
We have a deer,
Exactly.
the interactive deer, well, he made this map too, but also the interactive deer map that we've shown, he developed that.
Can I ask, I don't know if this is a Rick question or you question, Justin, but I've just noticed when you flip through it, so. This, on the roads, like the darker brown, I assume is an arterial road?
Yeah, the darkest, like smoky red is arterial road.
I'm just curious, why is Thunderhead Canyon an arterial road, but Westland Farms Drive is not?
That's just currently how it's written on the master plan. So I'm just copying and I know that Joe is working to update the master plan. But it's easier when you can see the colors on the roads and.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's weird. How is there an I mean, I get it coming off Clayton, that makes sense, but then I was like, do they just stop at the corner and then we're not floating through there anymore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Also, if you can see the little beaded lines that surround the streets, that's all the sidewalks. With OpenStreetMaps help, I got every sidewalk in Wildwood mapped. We have 168 miles. Unless I need to adjust some things, I think I'm within like 99%. If you zoom in again on here, you get MSD data. That's the red and blue lines. So I live copy their data so that we don't pay for storage because I'm not a fan. I'd rather just let them update their own data and not have us do it. So get out of this selection.
I would just suggest, not to interrupt or anything, but like when you guys are feeling, this looks great already, but when you're feeling really good about it, I would start to push this out so that people know that this is,
The hope is that
Thing.
people are just gonna push it out and tell residents explore it.
that's what I'm saying, cause like I just don't know that people are even gonna notice to know where to look to get to it.
We haven't,
other
we haven't,
trustees
we
are
haven't
gonna
put on the
do that.
gas just yet, just as an FYI, so we will though.
Yeah, I'm not, I wouldn't, like, wait till you're ready to go, but I'm just, like that trustees would be a
And
big help.
this little line here, I do differentiate between if it crosses a street or if it's continuous sidewalk, so I can add them up a little differently.
Is it possible, speaking of trustees, is it, I don't know, is it possible to mark out subdivisions?
Yeah, he already did in a different
okay.
map. So we have a
So,
couple of that.
Let me turn that on. So I also have public mowing in here, so every location where we cut the grass, do the landscaping, go over to one oh
Is
nine.
that, by
So
the
I
way-
have the green space for that. I also have the zoning information in here. It's just, there's so much data, I can't have it all on, or
Yeah.
else it would be completely unusable.
You wanna talk about
Same thing
technology
with,
though, saving money, like this?
Yeah.
Doing the square footage of the grass that we cut and being able to.
Yeah, we did a very rough version of that in our HOA and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that helped.
Yeah,
That was us just drawing little circles in Google Map.
well, the same can go for the sidewalks too. I mean, just quantifying this information, the streetlights coming down next. When we can really like, it helps hold contractors accountable, which is important. And that said, we're able to kind of reframe how we do a lot of our RFPs using this data. So obviously, there's gonna be a resident public interaction component, but a lot of this will also be used by the team and staff to help, guide them in their job and getting stuff put together for the council. So.
So does it map streetlights
Yeah,
That's
so
a
if
new
I were
feature.
to,
in the city or in
Town center.
subdivisions?
Town
Yeah, town center.
Yeah, the city
Not
control.
subdivisions.
The city control.
I would like to sign an NDA and ask Ameren for that information, because they already have it.
The
You've got to
council.
send me a file and I can,
We have 29. I just have to count them, get the numbers off and tell them to send them out.
so.
It's a-
Numbers.
It's
Yeah, I
a
don't
pain.
think
I
we
told me the
officially
wrong numbers.
reached out to them yet.
I went in
The
front of my house,
council,
it was
if we did
supposed
do
to
that,
be
the council
in
would approve the NDA.
here.
I think that's a,
It doesn't work.
didn't wanna do that with
No, you didn't.
Spire as well.
Well, where is it?
Cause they said they could.
Yeah,
I remember we-
Spire wants to.
It
Yeah,
does.
they would
It's
let us do it if they
something-
got an NDA and they'd let us mark their gas. I mean, that would be awesome. They probably don't have to.
It's quite dark to do it.
When you guys are doing that NDA stuff, you don't need our approval to do that,
We
right?
do.
Streets of Compton.
Especially with that,
Compton, this is
that
what-
organization overseen by the PSC. It would be an inter-cooperation agreement between.
You have to do, I would maybe ask John if you have to do that every time, or if we could just say, go get all of these.
We could probably do like an umbrella. I think though it would have to have some type of sunset clause on it. Cause you can't have it for perpetuity. And then that creates a
Well,
problem.
but if you sign the NDA and you connect to them and they're updating it, you only need to sign it to get the connection.
Yeah, but at one, that's where they might push back. Though.
And-
We have to have some type of provision that would allow it to sunset.
How I share that information back out.
Yep.
I have to say I won't. Alternatively, so less public facing data that I have for this, I pull in MoDOT's data, so like I have their live traffic feed information. I have the fire companies, districts are on here too, that's the red outline. You see the green lines going up like 109, that's MoDOT's live traffic data and their projects. It's really great during the winter because they have a lot more information. But if you zoom in, I did a tour of Wildwood, drove up and down every subdivision that has sidewalks and just noted problems. If it was a little uneven, if it was really uneven, if it looked like it holds water. So those are all the white dots that are grouped. They're clustered. So if you zoom in, they break apart and they just keep expanding out.
Keep multiplying.
But so this just helps me issue out sidewalks so that I can say, all right, I got these many problems. I can package this group and get it done for the cheapest amount. Cause if you make a concrete truck pull up the sleds, it's pretty expensive.
Right.
And then all of the cones are non-sidewalk related things that hit public works that I'm keeping track of, and I add colors with them, run them through statuses. I have some code on there for some of the steps that it'll automatically grab time and date. So if I switched it from open to issued, the date and time is already copied for me. I don't have to go and do that independently. It prevents from bad data collection. But same thing in here, on this map, the more you zoom in, the more you see. I think this one I have FEMA's 2025 data as well, so like the floodplain information's in there. But if you guys know any public source information, I will find the live link to it and add it to a map so that we don't have to pay to see it.
Cool.
That's great.
That's
Overall, it's been very effective, and
about all I got.
the residents are gonna be able to access some type of version of this soon, and we'll be pushing this, because the main thing is we do wanna help. Really, I mean, you saw those issues with the sidewalks, like, that's the hope, is that some folks could poke around in here as they're looking up a streetlight or something, whatever it might be, or reporting an issue, and they can see just the sheer amount of stuff that gets maintained by the city, so that they're just more realistic sometimes with the response time to get that sidewalk when it's just a small crack in it. Why that didn't get fixed? Well, there's 56, 100 different instances where we should be going first. And that's why we try to prioritize and package them to make it more cost efficient. So,
Excellent work. Yeah, very good work.
And you guys were asking about streetlights. Got this, the Zoom thing in my way, but if we were to go in far enough to town center, and I have all the parks lights as well.
So those are the ones we pay for.
Yes.
$800.
So you have to zoom in far enough for it, but I went around and I can mark outages. So like over on Grover Ridge, am I not sharing the right one? I'm not.
yeah.
So if you were over in Grover Ridge, I can click on a dot, turn it red because it's out, and then I can send that all to our electrical contractor to get fixed. I did that last week. We had 37 outages and I sent them all over the next day to Tom to get them all fixed.
We can track, and you can actually take these and attach invoices to them. We can keep a live record of the maintenance on a given light. So it's
That's awesome.
digitizing our entire maintenance program. Good stuff.
Excellent, yeah.
The things that happen behind closed doors, we want to make sure the
That's
residents
the
kind of
kind of stuff that we need to make sure people understand. That's what we
That's,
do.
yeah, and that's why I'm happy that Destin's sharing this, and we're gonna really try to do some pushing on it. So once it's available, we'll be sure to let the council know, and then we can kind of distribute that out to the residents. We'll make a very as user-friendly as it can be version for the residents, and then we'll push it pretty hard promotional wise.
And I think you'll get a lot of feedback from trustees
Oh, yeah.
willing to help you do things when you say, hey, we have this problem. They'll do it because there's something in it for them.
Yeah.
When all you do is do things and then they're not gonna offer to do that. They get enough other stuff.
Is the 2-foot increment grades topography included in this initiative, or was it something else we had decided approved?
No, so you're talking about the grade of the streets?
The topography down to 2-foot.
Yeah, we bought maps.
Oh, that is layered in.
We'll have that by
Yeah.
the end of the year, so it's not yet, no, but it will be, yeah, we'll get new aerial photographs out of it and contours that we would.
And that'll
pull
be
into.
pulled into it, and you'll be able to turn on a layer that shows elevations. That'll make it-
The last 2-foot contour lines that I could find were from 2012.
So 14 years.
We had
They
$1.4 million.
probably washed out.
We had $1.4 million budgeted for that. What's his cut?
All right, you guys don't need any action on that either, right?
No, that was just a demo.
Okay, well, thank you for your work, Dustin. It's good stuff. We're excited to have it keep rolling out. Looks really, really good.
Thanks.
Other than that, Chair, I mean, if you, with the committee's endorsement, I would be fine with just doing it, the municipal management software real quick and.
Do you need anything on the gambling and stuff?
They're informational.
Oh, okay.
The gambling one, we might have had to do something, but got advice from the city attorney to not do.
Sure.
So if you saw the news within the last day or so, one of the main companies that happens to be home here,
Right.
has consented to pulling all their stuff out. So there are 2 businesses in Wildwood that had them. We checked on them today. They are in the process of removing them.
Nice.
This spun up locally. St. Louis County prosecutor said this is potentially a felony. Serve notice to your businesses that have them. We did that a week or so ago, and they are
We knew one was Larry's. What was the second one?
a gas station, BP at 109 and Wild Horse Creek.
There we go.
So they're both in the process of removing.
Shouldn't surprise me.
This should be a non-issue at this.
Big mobile station's got like four.
Yeah, the Ellisville one. There's more, there's some in the front and in the back.
Yeah, no, I just.
Okay,
Yeah. I go.
so that one's good. We don't need to do the web thing.
No. Well, we will do that eventually, but not, it's okay.
Okay.
It's just, I recommend everybody read that though, cause that's gonna be a.
Well,
it's
doesn't
a
a lot of
mess.
that stuff update on its own?
We'll have our Civic Plus, we'll be able to do a lot of it, but the way we, like, the way you have to format, like I'm worried about our agenda center and like everything we upload is gonna be technically, possibly not compliant. And it's just gonna be a costly endeavor, whether it be through like a consultant coming and helping us or having staff have to relearn everything they've learned, posting things on the website.
Cool.
And the federal government has not really said anything and they're just not guidance other than just Destin, you can see he's very tech savvy. He's even
Sounds like Destin's gonna get good at uploading.
I-
Get us.
I don't know if this, I mean.
Making RFPs recently.
Good job to our senator.
This one is one of those things where I would shake a cane at. I'm like, hey, come on, let's figure this one out. That's bad. We'll learn more soon, but if you're over 50,000, you have to have it done this month. And
I would bet you right now that there's not a senator out there who even knows what this is.
yes, and there's a ton of consultants right now that are trying to pick up the scraps for it. I'm getting emails like every day saying, oh, you need help with this, cause they think we're over 50,000 and they know people are panicking. Most cities are either already engaged with consultants or just, I don't know what. Yes, it's pretty catastrophic.
Classic government stuff. Love it.
That should be on, like, we'll do an update from month to month to kind of know.
Like, as we know more and also cause we'll have to come back with, if it might cost some money to do it, it doesn't,
It will.
the Civic Plus, I've been looking through it. And I haven't found something specifically that states it, but there has to be a requirement for them to keep their,
They have to be
Web-
compliant.
yes,
Yeah.
because that's their
vendor, they
business.
Gotta be able to do it too.
They provide it to municipalities, so it would behoove them to obviously to make all their websites, because they're portals that allow us to upload, and it's not, I could teach everyone here how to kind of mess around with the website. It's not as crazy, it's not like we're coding back there.
Yeah.
It's a formatted template, kind of like Squarespace or something, if you're familiar with the private sector. And it allows people that may not be coding individuals, they can throw things in and make it.
I think it'd be fair to say, hey, we're faced with this, what's your plan?
Yeah.
From us to them as the vendor.
Oh, we already, we
And-
had
And
that.
tell us how you're gonna deal with it.
We're waiting on the formal plan.
Well, I would think they would be able to give you best practices on what we need to do to upload stuff.
No, that part we're gonna have to fix because it's.
So I know we'd have to fix it, but the idea would be because they are the web provider, they have to be compliant. In order for them to be compliant, they then have to tell us what to do to be
Yes.
compliant.
Yes, but also we are the one that ends up
Yeah.
holding the bag at the end of the day.
That'll be
Because
just a different way to scan things.
Yeah, that part I'm not as worried about, but needs to be done anyway.
All right, well then let's get to the management software, I guess. That's the
Yes.
last thing. Okay.
Yep, so we'll do that one. Reason why we're bringing this up, it was kind of sat down for a while, but we have had some of the vendors reach out to us, just kind of, tugging at us, and the original motion was to go ahead and put ice on this for now, because we had at the time made some progress with MyGov, who's actually, we kind of cut the services that weren't working for us. We saved quite a bit of money, 22,000 a year now. We're using GIS now for a lot of the cataloging and asset management components and vendor management components. So I think we've got a solid plan in place. It would be great to onboard, one of these softwares that could kind of do it all for us. But as you can see with the price tags associated with them, I mean, they have very heavy upfront costs and then long-term costs, along with having to ensure that the entire staff, that just getting them on board with MyGov and like learning the software, it's a process. So switching that, you almost need a guarantee that it's gonna be, you know, we don't wanna do it again, is the bottom line. And the other thing that kind of hit us as we were going through this last year is that there were a lot of advancements. That's when, you know, a newer AI version had come out where it really kind of unlocked the doors on quite a few things where I think, quite frankly, a lot of these products are gonna be somewhat either updated substantially and they're actually gonna incorporate AI, or they're gonna be obsolete. So at least from the department's perspective,
I'm gonna bet most of them are gonna be obsolete.
yeah, and it's something where right now, I think it's safe to say, let's reject all bids. And then as we see some of the, like, who becomes the dominant vendor, like the Civic Plus of the world, but in the AI space, because there are companies trying to go through, like, automate permitting, automate you know, site plan review, that they're starting to get pretty advanced with their propositions. They haven't done it yet, but there will eventually be like kind of a master software, I think, that will help with daily workflow, do a lot of the things that were covered in their proposals, but also, you know, take out, you know, a lot of the human error and function from it too. So nonetheless, I think right now, the department thinks we should kind of wait and see. MyGov is still, you know, it's working and it's doing better. And then with the GIS, and then as we push that out, I think that's gonna serve as a really good supplement. The department would recommend rejecting all tonight.
I'm sure you're keeping track of this, but I really believe this is the kind of stuff you need to be putting out into next year's budget. To say, hey, these are costs that we're not seeing them right now, but these are the extraneous costs that we're gonna have to deal with in the next year or the following year. Because otherwise, it's like, oh yeah, well, we knew about, but we didn't think about.
Are you talking about the ADA stuff?
Yeah. So that we're not sitting there saying, oh, well, now we didn't know that. We know it, let's at least put $1 out there to say these are upcoming things that we need to.
The ADA stuff has definitely been noted because we don't have a price tag yet, but once we do, it will be. And we,
All right, so then you would like a motion to reject all the bids.
yes.
Okay, does anybody, Mr. Marshall will make that motion, as Diane will second it. Any conversation, questions, debate? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes. Tom, I would just suggest on something like this, if you present it or whatever in the work session, I would present it as, we went and looked at this, it is not worth looking at for the foreseeable future, and check that box and be done with it. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Because I mean, yeah, in 2 years, none of this is gonna make any difference.
I agree with that.
Okay, that brings us, I guess, to you, Mr. Brown. You got any new stuff for us?
I just have the update for you this month. If there's any questions about it, happy to address them as best I can. The 109B roundabout is in progress, as you've probably seen if you've driven through there. It's moving along very well right now, and Old State Road Shared Use Path is getting ready to start. We have been going back and forth with St. Louis County, a little frustrations there, trying to get a special use permit from them. Part of that will be a maintenance agreement that I'm trying to get on the agenda for council Monday night. So essentially guaranteeing that we will maintain the trail where it is on their right of way. It's only on their right of way, a small portion. But we still have to work through that with them, so. We should be seeing construction start on that project very soon. Trees have been brought down and we'll start breaking ground shortly.
All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns? I know it's not really our deal, but I have noticed, because I just feel like I've been driving by it a lot, the roundabout and the temple, the signage, there's a lot of signs.
Yeah.
And there's seemingly a lot of confusion as to where people are supposed to be.
I actually told somebody to call in today to ask for you. Said it twice, they almost got hit when they were coming around the roundabout and the people didn't see the other sign, or they were trying to cut in front of them. And said not only once, but then a little bit later, she had her husband with her and it happened again. And it was like where the signs were placed, that other people coming in were very close to having an accident here. So I don't know enough about it, but I thought you'd be a great person to answer
Well, we have tried to add additional signage, but there could be, we'll continue to do what we can to improve it for sure. I've been suspecting that there's visitors to Babbler Park that may be getting, coming out for the first time or the first visit, and they haven't experienced it yet, and so first time through is always the toughest, it
Yeah.
really is, and once they've done it, they understand it, but it's that first time through.
Do we know how long that detour is gonna be there like that? I know it'll be different configurations, but that particular one? We don't know.
I'll have to check the schedule, but I'm expecting it to be there through Memorial Day.
Okay.
At this point.
Did we do any no parking stuff on that little cut through back? Cause I know, there were a lot of people parking over there for the temple. I didn't see them this weekend, but,
In our traffic schedule, you're saying?
well, I'm just like, cause I've seen a lot of people parking on the road in the past rather than like parking in the vacant church or whatever it is next door. And like, it just seems like they stacked up along the backside of the building. And with all the people going through there now, and then like, there's the MoDOT signs, there's the temple signs, like.
As soon as one person parks and everybody else think that's where they're supposed to park.
Right, so I just didn't know if we
don't have anything, I don't
even, is that can we do something there or is that all MoDOT thing?
No, the road that goes, that's our road, so we could. No, we did meet with the temple leadership and they were surprisingly cooperative. And they gave us some suggestions and things they wanted seen, and the signs are there in part based on some of the feedback we got from them. So I was really surprised at how very cooperative they were and receptive they were and supportive of the approval, so.
Well, we got a couple more months to get through it, I guess. People will get used to it. There's a lot happening over there, that's for sure.
School buses.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Yes, sir.
Miscellaneous?
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion that we begin to start publishing the council and committee attendance records again. They can't make it into the Gazette. The mayor said to put them on the website. And I just think it's an important thing that residents see. I used to look at them all the time.
Anyway, right?
Mhm.
But the Gazette is only gonna come out one time
Right.
anyway, so.
Yeah, it's
But
it's too late for the Gazette.
oh, I know that, but now you could put them on the website for,
Yeah.
it would be May of 25 through April of 26.
The e-bulletin?
Hmm?
On one of the weekly e-bulletins?
Is it, I think it's great one way or the other. Is it better to do it? Like, I always thought it was a little silly that it was like, hey, here's the year recap. And then you're like, oh, this person never showed up. That would have been nice to know while it was happening.
Well, and we first started doing that back when you were doing 6 Gazettes.
Right.
Well,
So
you're
it made
you're
it a
doing
little
it,
bit easier.
if you do it like.
You can put it out monthly as a Facebook post or something.
We could also just have like a standing page on the website.
If you do it in May, it shows the year results and some of the.
That would be, I would prefer, I'll be honest, from a resource perspective, I would be very thrilled to, we could put a QR code on the Gazette next year, but also on the website, just have a page, we update it each, like, almost like we had briefly talked about this, like a council session, like, there is, we're about to swear in new
Right.
folks, that is a new session
Right.
of the council, almost like
Yeah, so May to April.
May to April type thing, and then we'd show that, and then, when May, April comes back up, boom, we'll post the year's results, and, maybe it's like a 6-month thing, just to keep it
Yeah,
on one
I mean,
Friday.
it's a little
We could-
trivial
we
thing,
could
but
put it out
I
pretty
always
easily,
looked at
right?
it when I wasn't
Yeah.
seeing if my people are showing up and things like that,
So we could have it, give us the direction tonight, we could put it wherever
Nobody in here's got anything to worry about.
we could put it most places.
When and how do you wanna put it up
Make
out
the
there,
motion.
Cliff?
I did.
No, but
Be specific.
be specific when and
Where?
where you wanna put it.
What are my options?
Do you wanna website, have a page on the website? Do you wanna have it in the e-newsletter? Or would you, I think Facebook may be a little direct, but,
Well, I would say, I would say you should pick whatever you want.
No.
I am a fan of transparency, so if, like, I don't It is what it is. People show up, they don't show up.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I don't know that we need to
Having a
hide-
standing webpage on this website, pretty front and center. Thing is, it's just traffic, and including that in the weekly news would probably be pretty effective.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
So I'll make it a motion.
All right, so we have a motion for that. Anybody care to second it? Seconded by Mr. Marshall. Any questions, concerns, or discussion? Okay, then that motion passes and we'll get an updated attendance for the last council year or whatever we wanna call it.
Right.
Okay,
You guys.
Is this for the is this for the is this
Yeah,
for
then
the
vote.
12 months prior?
Yeah, and my understanding
Yeah.
too,
basically made it.
Last year's record,
Right.
my understanding
last
too,
term's record.
this is for
Council term,
council
right?
and 3 standing committees,
May
not
through
each PC and
April.
all the other side
And those that
attendance
need
records.
to
if there's
will
like-
know to dress up their
That's
act
just my understanding,
in their second year of their.
I mean,
because those are all appointed officials.
Hey, Joe, you didn't vote on it though.
We haven't voted yet, but
You didn't
you're
vote on
still
it.
talking.
well,
I couldn't hear what.
I was saying, when we published it in the Gazette, we'd publish it for the council and the 3 standing committees, because those were council members that obviously get elected. And, I mean, we could publish for all commissions, boards and whatnot. It's a lot, and
It's a lot.
I don't think residents are necessarily, like, maybe planning and zoning, but I don't think they're gonna be really keeping an eye. So,
planning and zoning would be.
okay, so
Yeah.
those 4 maybe, instead of doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if it's, people can look in the agendas and or in the minutes and see if people are there, but I mean, regardless, people don't know that committees are going on, they don't know that they wanna be on a committee, like. I think if we have a committee, we should be telling people if it's meeting, if people are showing up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just me.
So you'd probably wanna put a designation in there that, or just a footnote, that if the person is present, they could be a Zoom.
Sure.
If they,
So
you know, he said they would notate that with an asterisk.
I just know,
Zoom.
planning and zoning, Ward 5 rep, in my last 3 or 4 years, she's never been inside the building for a meeting. She Zooms in for every meeting.
Can they do that?
She
For
said
what?
she can't get to work. She can't get there from work.
Yeah, for everything,
For what, P and Z?
for council, no,
Oh.
for every other committee, yes.
Okay.
Which I find that somewhat shocking, that in a whole, well, 2 years, 3 years, she's not been able to come. I don't know that she has any intention to do that, but I find it frustrating for P and Z because you sit in there and the people come in yelling and screaming at you and suddenly it just disappears.
Gone,
I
yeah.
mean, still there, but blacks it out. I know that's not our problem, but I mean, I just think those are the types of things that really do make a difference for people. The
Yeah.
people who are trying to do it the right way and the people who make it more convenient to do it that way. So
Alright, so then I mean. So Cliff, do you wanna do all of them or just specific ones?
I mean, council and the 3 committees and P and Z, I think, would be fine,
That'd be preferred.
Great.
Just from
Yeah,
That's fine.
time management, okay.
right?
okay, now you need to vote.
Alright, so the
Second
motion
by
is going to
Ed.
be for council, the 3 standing committees, so admin, PW, Parks and Planning, EDC, and P and Z. Okay, all those in favor? No, Mr.
E-bulletin or our website or both, or what? Where do people see this stuff?
Once it's on the website, we'll put it on, we'll have it published. It's gonna take a day or a couple days to track it all down, but then we'll have it on the e-newsletter at the next subsequent edition.
Both. Yeah.
Both.
All of the above.
I'll do both.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Alright, anything else? Okay, then a motion to adjourn made by Mr. Albers, seconded by Mr. Marshall. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Next meeting and our last meeting of this group will be Tuesday, May 5th. We'll see you.